Like the thing that most people don't understand is that nothing survives, no plan survives first contact. As soon as you step off that bird or out of that vehicle, or you leave the wire, something can go wrong. Dahana had never been taken since Alexander the Great had been there. And so we just, got a list of NAIs, like named areas of interest, and we just started working them. We were on the mountains, me and my buddy Lance's team, right, to see these guys run the vehicle checkpoint just like we do. Like people are out and separated. Then we see, right, there's two dudes guarding the compound, and then a guy came walking out and they fell in. He had a full-on security detail. And we're like, holy shit, this is the freaking real deal right here. We actually found the district governor of the area, the Taliban Shadow Governor.
What is going on, guys? We're back with Ryan for part 2. In this episode, we deep dive his time on the ground as a recon Marine operating in one of the most dangerous cities in Afghanistan. If you haven't checked out part 1 yet, you can do that right here or in the description below. And if you guys do enjoy this episode, do us a huge favor and leave us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple, or if you're on YouTube, leave the video a like and subscribe for more future content. Let's get into it. Yeah, man, so jumping back in, I guess getting into that 2009 deployment, from a macro level, can you kind of detail, what that deployment meant to you?
So I feel like, a lot of guys have a deployment. It's not necessarily they rest their laurels on, right? But that was their favorite, right? Or that, it's one that has the most memories, right? And it doesn't matter where you were on the chain of leadership or whatever, right? Everyone has this one deployment, especially during, that time frame, right? That always sticks out to them, that deployment definitely was that deployment for me, because our platoon detached from our company and worked for 2-3 up in Ops Box, Tripoli, and we went up to Nowzad to work for Gulf Company. 2-3 doing traditional recon work, right? Reconnaissance and surveillance, and that's what we went to go do for them. Rest of the company stayed down in Camp Leatherneck, and they were a raid force for the general, for the task force raider. So that deployment really, for me, I say when we were getting briefed on where we're going, right? You just looked at the map of FOB Cafaretta, which is the operating base up there in Nowzad, right? And all you saw everywhere were red, explosion marks on the map, right? I'm oh, shit's about to get real,
Mm-hmm.
This place is IED and infested place, and so it's all right. Our platoon, for that deployment was actually probably one of the more junior platoons that had gone out in a while, because all the team leaders, we were all, we'd all been around, multiple deployments. The assistant team leaders, all 3 of our assistant team leaders were all new guys who'd never deployed before. And my ATL was probably the best assistant team leader I've ever had, even though it was his first deployment. We worked super well together. And he, our team had stuff down to a freaking, science. He knew my expectations, right? And he could make a decision that I would he knew, he aligned with me, So, going up there, right, we're the first ones from the company, going anywhere, right? And we're we didn't have any vehicles, so we were flying up there, and it was basically what we could carry. So it was rucks, Pelican cases, and boom, we're on the bird. They told us it was a hot LZ going in there, right? So and you're we got rucks, we got Pelican cases, everybody in the platoon, right, is has to carry something else, rucks, boom, and then you got a Pelican case in one hand and whatever else, right? You got your weapon, obviously, but we're all got to carry this shit out to plane. They're oh, it's a hot LZ, right? So Kevin's leaving, my platoon sergeant's like leaning over to me. I'm like, hey, we got to do a fucking 180, like get our shit off the bird, like 180 first, then get the shit off the bird, right? Like whatever, right? So we hit the ground, like boom, everyone bails off and like bird takes off. And then like you can see the grunts, they're like sitting in their vehicles, like smoking, right? There's red lenses that are on, like, I'm like, what the fuck? We thought there was a hot LZ. Like, dude, man, like the one dude's like, man, we haven't been shot at on this LZ like at night in like a couple of weeks, man. You guys are tripping. It's like kind of like one of those conversations, because we're like on high alert, and so we're like, well, dang it, and then go into the fob, and they put us in this freaking spot for the night. They're like, oh yeah, send them over to the palace. Well, the palace is like where we ended up taking over and making as our compound. So we just called it that because we put a gate, like 10-foot gates on it. And like it just had a whole bunch of rooms and freaking like courtyard and all this crap. I had a well in there too. So we could pump dirty water out the shower in. But like we checked in with the unit there. And the first sergeant's like, who are you guys? We're like, yeah, because we shaved all the dudes' heads before we went up there, right? We had uniforms on. We're like, hey, Kevin's like, oh, we're the recon platoon. And he just like said something to the effect of like, aren't you guys supposed to have like long hair and hiking boots or something like that? Something wasn't snarky. It was just, he was surprised that we all had shaved heads and we were all in uniform, like regular camis, not even frog suits. And we're like, nope, not this platoon. And then after that, like we just got along great with those dudes. They were freaking great bunch of guys, but the place was freaking crazy because every day there's multiple firefights breaking out. Like post 4 is right outside our freaking, right outside our compound, right? And those dudes are freaking shooting at something every day, multiple times a day. Like when we first got there, it was like firefights in the morning, in the evening, and during the day regularly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, could you detail what Nasdaq was like at the time? Because it was extremely hot.
Yeah, so it was like the most kinetic place in Afghanistan at the time. Like everywhere in Helmand was like kinetic, but like this place was like hot. And it was crazy because the only people that lived in the district center were freaking dirtbags. Right, so it was like if you wanted to get into a fight, that's where you went. Problem with the district center is that there was IEDs like everywhere. Right, like my buddy's team, they're going out to do a recce, and a dog ran past him around the corner. Boom! It stepped on an IED and blew itself up all over the place. Like you didn't go anywhere without a freaking minesweeper. Like we had a whole operating procedure about how we walked in the district center in like high IED areas, like to like include stepping in the steps and the guy in front of you. Like we would practice this stuff, right? Like part of our IA drill practice for a mission and stuff like that. Like how. Like we would take like a water bottle, like that size, because that's the ones they fly in there, and we'd fill half of it IR Chemlite juice and the other half with water. So when you squirted it on the ground, right, you could see it with your MVGs for a little while, but like the engineer would mark potential IEDs with that way, and then we would step around them and stuff. Like so it was just like I said, there was nothing in the district center but dirtbags. There was this one place called Pakistani Alley, which is like, there was like Pakistani, it's where foreign fighters were in the area. So that's what it was called. And so we just, got a list of NAIs, like named areas of interest, and we just started working them, right? Observing them. Sometimes the grunts would go hit them, hit those targets, or we would go, observe an area of interest for 24 to 48 hours. And then, the grunts might go hit it, or we would, a couple times, some units came in, right? Like SAS and some SF guys came in and hit some places we did RMS of. But it was a kinetic place. It's also a great place because like you had some latitude there. Like, so the one op that, I know that you heard it, but when I talk about blowing mud, in the ditch, right? So like on that operation, it was like the grunts are like, hey, we're going to set off a fake IED, right? And then act like our vehicle's down. That usually brings out the bad guys, right? And we were going to ambush them, right? So like the place was a place for us to use creativity, right? To attack the enemy, right?
Set
Like,
up TARs.
yeah, like one time we were going to use a bongo truck to go and we were going to dress up like locals and then go take that truck into a Taliban vehicle checkpoint and kill their asses, right? Like there's like things that we were like actively discussing, right? Like, or like if we could get donkeys so we could go stay up in the mountains longer. So we go up and when we're doing reconnaissance and surveillance, we were only out for 48 hours because that's all the water we could carry, which was like a lot of what, like, I don't know, 15 quarts of water, I'd say we would carry. Sounds probably about right. Yeah, but that would only and that we would drink all of that in 48 hours on an op because you're up in the mountains, right? Even at nighttime, it's freaking sweltering in the summer.
Carrying a shitload of weight.
Yeah,
too.
carrying 120 pounds easy.
Yeah.
So like hydration was key, like to the point where when we prepped for an op, like at this time, everyone would drink a quart of water. Next half hour later, they'd drink a half Gatorade, half water with some oral rehydration salts in it. Right, we had a whole hydration plan before we went out, and then when we were out, we had all that planned out too. And like on a 48-hour RNS, you might pee one time, and it'd be like the color of that coaster right there, like wood glue brown, you know, if you peed at all, like because you just be sweating, you know.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, water, like, all right, how can we carry more stuff? Oh, we could get donkeys, right? Okay, so if we have donkeys, where do we stash the donkeys during the day so the enemy doesn't see us, right? So it was cool because ideas like, you know, creative thinking, right? Like tactical thinking, right? Flourished there on multiple levels. And the sniper team that was with 2-3, my buddy Mike's team, like we brought them under our wing, like they were like our fourth team, best sniper team I've ever worked with. Like they could do everything that we could do. So we did a lot of stuff with those guys too. So that was the cool place about it. The shitty thing about it is like there was IEDs everywhere, right? And a bunch of dudes got, you know, their legs blown off, freaking. One of the guys from the sniper platoon, you know, he stepped through a freaking, they blew a wall. There was an IED. The engineer missed it, and the next dude stepped on it and freaking blew his legs off. He got an infection. He died, you know. Like the place was just, it was, I mean, like, you know, it was freaking, it was insane. You know, like, because now it's like I said, it's like nobody lived there. Like, so it was a ghost town. You know, but like IEDs and like shitheads, right? And the shitheads weren't always there.
Town for war, basically.
Yeah, it was there. That like, if you were there, you were a bad dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're a bad dude. Unless you're like, unless you're like the Taliban, they had a special needs dude, a mentally handicapped dude. They paid to go and mess with the grunts around the fob, right? for like probably like a month, I would say. Right, like they would hear stuff. Like guys on post would hear stuff, right? And like 'cause there was tunnels in this place. Like one day, 2 dudes pop up in the mortar pit, right? 2 shitheads just freaking pop up like whack-a-mole in the freaking mortar pit, right? So they freaking, you know, cuff those dudes. And, you know, old freaking Terry Taliban and his buddy just, you know, zigged when they should have zagged, apparently, you know. So they paid this mentally handicapped dude to mess with the fob every night, right? And so the grunts, they finally, they started sending out patrols, right? So they had this thing called the G-Boss, right? That has like a camera, infrared and thermal on it and all that. So it can see out into the city and shit, but they can't find out who this is. So it was probably like a month maybe. Like, and they're like, this is like aggravating to them, right? They're like, we're going out to get them. Like, we don't know who it is, right? We don't know why they're fucking with us, right? But like, we're going to get them. Well, it turns out it was a mentally handicapped person, right? That day, Taliban were paying his family to have him go up and just, you know,
fuck around.
Fuck with them.
Yeah.
Right. And like, dude, and like they were, I don't know if they were like proud, mad, like what their exact feelings were. Like, I would love to ask them, like, how did you guys feel when you finally caught that dude and found out that it was a mentally handicapped person, right? That, like, you know, the Taliban were just fucking with you, right? Because it's like, dude, they put in a lot of effort to get this dude. It was like, dude, it was like a thing. It was like, we almost got him. Like, we know it. Like, we could hear him, like, right over here. But then he, like, disappeared, right? Like, dude, for, like, a month, right? You'd, like, this dude played cat and mouse with you guys and somehow didn't step on an IED. You know what I mean? Like, that's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
That dude didn't step on an ID because those things are freaking everywhere out there. The night that we were going to that ambush position, like we were going through this freaking field and we used 2 big old things of IR chem light juice, right? And we were only 100 yards into the field and there was freaking IEDs and mines and stuff all over the place. And like apparently it was a Russian minefield that nobody or somebody forgot about, didn't mark. Who knows? The EOD guys were like, oh yeah, that's definitely a Russian minefield. You know, like when you're like doing that, like stepping. Yeah, that's freaking stressful. Right there. Like, I'd rather be in a gunfight in the street with the bad dudes than like worry about IEDs.
Yeah, because that's, you don't really have control over that. If you miss that, it's game over.
Yeah. And, so, that like.
What type of targets were up in the region at that time, too? Like, who you guys usually looking to hit?
I mean, any freaking bad dudes. I mean, so like the rules of engagement at the time was like, if you see somebody with an ICOM radio, like you could engage them or a chest rig or a weapon. So like each named area of interest had, their own like thing. Like maybe it's a suspected IED making factory, drugs. When we did our operation, the Bar Nowzad, we actually found the district governor of the area, the Taliban Shadow Governor. We didn't know that at the time, but so like we like basically from like Nowzad, like we kind of just pushed out, right, in not concentric like circles, but like we pushed out right from like basically near to far, right? So north of Nowzad was like Kanjaki, Sofla, Kanjaki, like Oya, and then Bar Nowzad, like some villages going up to Bar Nowzad, which is a much bigger town. So we would observe targets right from Nowzad to these villages, and then we worked our way to Bar Nowzad. So that place, when we infiltrated there, we were on the mountains, me and my buddy Lance's team, and we see these guys running. The sun comes up, right? See these guys run the vehicle checkpoint just like we do. Like people are out and separated. Hoods are up, trunks are open, right? They're searching the vehicles, and we're like, holy shit, like this is the freaking real deal right here, and then we see a compound, right? There's 2 dudes guarding the compound, and then a guy came walking out, and they like fell in. He had a full-on security detail. So what we did, like I'd had this Canon G10 camera, and I didn't figure this out, I think my ATL did, but we took that and we put on a Carl Zeiss spotting scope and do it so you can catch it just right, and then we would take pictures that way. So like we had our other camera, we had this like huge, we called it the Jesus lens, right? 'Cause it's huge, gray, long ass lens. We're like, dude, there's got to be a better way to do this than using the Jesus lens, man. So we figured that out. We put the little camera up against the Carl Zeiss scope, then we didn't have to bring the Jesus lens with, because like after our first op in the mountains, we're like, because we almost didn't make it to where we needed to go because we were like so heavy and we had so much gear. And we're like, all right, how do we get rid of this stuff? Like, how do we not get rid of it? How do we streamline what we have, right? So we can bring mission essential gear, water, most importantly, right? And still do what we need to do. So we're like, all right, we'll carry a Javelin missile system, right? Because we have a thermal on the command launch unit. And so we don't got to bring 50 caliber sniper rifle, because that thing's freaking heavier than hell. And it's not even a mid-angle weapon, and you can only bring like 20 rounds, and that's all heavy too, right? Like that, everything on that's heavy. But with the Javelin, I can track moving targets, or I can put it in top attack mode, So like we're like, all right, we'll take the Javelin, right? Instead of the 50 cal, instead of like this huge thermal that we had, the PAS 22. All right, so we had to learn to lighten our load, right? So we're in Bar Nowzad and we're taking pictures. So I'm requesting for a fire mission to get air to drop on these dudes. Like, hey, if they're right here, let's kill these motherfuckers right now, And they're like, oh, and this is classic, is what they do to recon, right? They're like, send pictures for proof. So you're like, okay, I'll do just that, right? Like, boom, send the picture, right? And they're like, denied. I'm like, oh, damn it. I'm like, all right, 120s wouldn't reach from the fob to there, right? So we're like, oh, how about HIMARS? right? So like GPS guided artillery rounds. Like how about freaking HIMARS? They're like, denied. Like, all right, can we shoot them with javelins? They're like, no. We're like, fuck, right? So they're like, wait till tomorrow. If they do the same thing, then we'll clear you hot to engage. Because we would typically observe for 24 hours and then take out targets of opportunity at the second 24 hours if we were able to. Which, you know, like, all right, fine, but it still like pissed me off. Probably, so right around that time, like later on in the morning, so we had vehicles in this mountain pass tucked way back, and they started getting shot at by a multiple launch rocket system. Right then a serpentine broke on a freaking vehicle. So like, hey, we got to extract you guys tonight. Right. So like, then we're like, all right, well, this sucks because now we could have killed all these dudes and now we don't get a chance to. So we freaking exfilled that night, got on vehicles, hit an IED, freaking vehicle I was in, hit an IED. All right, now the vehicle's down. And the guys at the base at the FOB were like, hey, look, the wrecker is broke. It's probably not going to be fixed for 24 hours. We're like, well, you got like till after the sun comes up because that sun's going to come up. We're going to get in a huge gunfight. So like, hurry up, you know, like, let's go. So they get the wrecker up. Wrecker ends up coming out. Sun comes up before the wrecker gets to us because it still had a ways to go. And they were brought with it. So we would use this thing called the ACE. I have no idea what the hell the thing stands for, but it's like a half bulldozer, half like troop transport kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or not troop transport, but like you can open the blade up. I don't know if I don't know what the purpose of the thing is, to be honest with you. It's something for engineers, but it was awesome because the dude would drive it and scrape the top of the road and push IEDs out of the way or blow them up. Like the one dude like took a lot of pride that he'd been blown up like 3 times, right? Like great pride in this thing. Like, hey man, you know, like you might want to just take a day off. Yeah. I mean, yeah, take a day off, bro. Great job. But he was like all proud of that stuff, you know, but, so they end up coming out to us and like we start getting shot at by the freaking multiple launch rocket system, machine guns and RPGs and the typical freaking crap. So I ran the damn javelin gunner all the way up to the top of this freaking mountain, the dude that we'd taken out with us. And he was like, he's behind us like, never again, right? Like, and he was a corporal. We had taken out a couple of his new guys on some missions with us and they shot a bunch of javelins, right? And this dude's like, those boots, the new guys, killed all these people with javelins. I'm coming out on an operation with you guys because I'm a freaking section leader, you know? So he picked that op to go on and it was a freaking, like his water broke. One of his water camelbacks broke within the first few 100 yards, right? Like this dude had a rough couple days with us. And like we get in the hide site and we're just under this cami netting that's like over these boulders and stuff. And like, it's not comfortable. And it's like boots hanging out. I'm like, get your boot in the hide, like right now, dude. You know, like I'll cut it off, you know? And he's like, you know, is this what you guys do? Like you just sit here? I'm like, yes. Like we got little holes cut out of the cami nettings, like spotting scopes and binos and shit, right? A couple of guys are observing, other guys are on watch, right? Sending reports back. Like, this is what we do, man. Right? You wanted to come out, right? It's not all glorious. Like this is the nuts and bolts of it. It sucks, you know? But yeah, so like when I was running him up the top of this mountain, he's like, never again, like huffing and puffing, like, and he never came out with us ever again. So, yeah, and we ended up having a gunfight like all the way back to the FOB. Like, dude, that was, we had one of the machine gunners from the weapons section, like on my gun, he's freaking shooting grenades at this dude, freaking hits this dude and freaking leg goes one way and the dude like catapulted the other way. Like we had a whole running gunfight back to the FOB. And later on, come to find out after we sent our debrief up that like that dude was the shadow governor of the district. So
you guys ended up getting him out.
I think the SAS went and got him, honestly. But there was a lot of dirtbags up in that village. Like if we would have gotten into a gunfight right then, it would have been probably a hell of a day. Like if we would have engaged them when like we wanted to. There was a lot of freaking dirtbags up there. And I found out, like my sister-in-law is the one who told me that that's who we found. But I didn't even find that out from we didn't find that out from like conventional military channels, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you do, you would know, because like we would do we would observe a target, send in a report, and then all of a sudden you hear a helicopter one night hit the exact freaking place that you just did a report on, and you're like, well, damn it, I guess we're not going to hit that one. I guess they got them, like, that's good. So, but yeah, it was we developed a lot of like operating procedures on that deployment that like we brought with us back, and that like down the road we end up instituting in like some of the reconnaissance and surveillance courses and stuff like that, from some of the SOPs that we developed there, especially working in the mountains and all that stuff.
Yeah, I heard that from a lot of guys. They've said, because a lot of our tactics and just everything was all built, Vietnam.
Yeah.
Just nothing was really made for what we were doing in Iraq and Afghanistan. So the SEALs is a huge one. They had to switch everything essentially.
Yeah. And then when you move from like, so guys who did stuff in Iraq, right? And moving from Iraq to Afghanistan, right? So in Iraq, guys, like especially in the recon community, like there was like redundancy in comm, right? So there's like 4 radios going out, right? Huge, robust hide kits, because the movements to hide sites weren't that long. Right. So they would have these heavy ass rucks on, right? With all this elaborate stuff. Right. And I've seen some killer desert hides, some killer urban hides. Right. But like all this stuff is stuff that you had to carry in. But when it's flat or it's only a couple kilometers, it really doesn't matter. Right. Like we were in the mountains in Afghanistan. Like I said, after that first mission, we're like, all right, how do we strip this down? Right. Do I need all of this? I don't need 15 magazines. Like I need 6 on me and 1 in the gun. Right. Like, so we had to adapt to a whole different environment and mindset of like being lighter. Like the guys who replaced us, like we told them, and they made the same mistakes their first mission that we did on ours. And we're like, hey, dude, I wouldn't take all that. You're not going to make it. You ain't going to make it, dude. And they're like, no, we got this. I'm like, all right, cool, man. No. And you know what happened? They didn't make it to where they wanted to make it the first night. So like there's always that constant evolution in there. And we freaking had some really great days, and I mean sometimes some fun.
Do you remember your first? I mean, because a lot of stuff we were talking about, kind of your previous deployments, you're like itching to get out there, and you kind of kept getting teased and this and that, and then you finally, in this one. Do you remember your first combat experience, or kind of that first time it was hot?
So the first, literally the first op we did in Afghanistan, like we got our combat action ribbons out of the way like immediately, because we went out with the sniper platoon or sniper team just for like a familiarization of the area type thing, and it was like semi overt, like so semi in the open, but semi kind of covert, right? It was like a started off as like we don't kind of want them to know that we're here, but as the day progressed, like the enemy knew we were there. And so the grunts they're clearing some, or they're doing a patrol, I think so what it was. And they're doing a patrol. We end up doing overwatch for them. And we end up getting to a gunfight right in the afternoon. So like we started freaking whipping it on like right away, pretty much. The machine gunners, right? Like I'll give these dudes some props. We only had to move like vehicles dropped us off like 300 yards away from this compound. Dude's got a Mark 19. The machine gunner and A gunner's got this Mark 19, which is not light, right? Tripod. Dude's got a can of ammo, and a bunch of other crap to make a hide, right? So we like get up there. He builds his little spot, right? And then the dude like immediately. So me and my buddy Lance, we're just like laying in the prone, like spotting scope up, binos, sniper rifles up, right? We had M79 bloop gun with us, and right, like sun's coming up, right? And I go, right, and the machine gunner is like looks at me and like, and he had a rip it in his hand. He's like, "You guys want to rip it?" I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm good right now." And he's like, all right, cool. He's like chilled out up against this rock, right? Like just drinking this rip it. And he's like, "Hey, you guys gonna lay there like that all day?" We're like, "Yeah, that's what we're gonna do." He's like, "Man, you guys are fucking crazy." right? He like leans back on his rock. Like 10 minutes later, he's like, "Kss," right? He's like, you guys want to rip it? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm like, how many rippets do you got? He's like, holds up a whole case of rippets, right? So not only haul in like his water, right? His freaking machine gun and all this other bull crap. He brings a case of energy drinks, little half like can energy drinks with him too, you know? And like, I'm like, dude, I ended up drinking like one of them, but we laid there all day. He had a way more comfortable position, I will say that. But like later that afternoon, we got into a gunfight. So like that was over and done. Right, like you're like that's what everybody wants, right? When they get to a new place, like I want to get my combat action, right?
Yeah,
Like, all right, well, we got that done, right? The whole platoon had their combat action within like 3 days of us being up there, you know. So, but like it was, you know, like we had some super intense firefights, you know, like you know, in rounds, freaking pinging, you know, off the wall right by us, or, you know, right over our head, RPGs flying over us and stuff like that. And like, you know, for anything that I got everything that I ever wished and wanted for and more, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like way more. Cause we got, hit a couple IEDs, freaking, you know, like the IED threat was just like, that was the worst. That caused the most trepidation. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'd rather be in a gunfight in a street with the enemy all day, every day, than worry about IEDs, you know? Cause like, and they're like, and it's crazy stuff. Like the one EOD guy, like in a blocking position, right? He opens his door, puts his foot or gets out, right? And goes to walk like forward and like puts his foot down. He's like, oh, that's an IED, and pulls his foot back off. There's a pressure plate right under his foot. Right. And it's like, you could walk over an IED, but your buddy could walk on one, or your other buddy could step on it and it just does like a low ord, like a low blow, and just freaking breaks his ankle. Mm-hmm. Like that happened to a couple of my buddies. Right. And there's 50 pounds of freaking homemade explosives underneath that should have blown them freaking sky high. You know, or dude hits one in a Humvee, nothing happens, barely anything happens to him. You know, next Humvee looks like it's cracked in half. You know what I mean? Like, just that was just the worst thing. Right? And like Nowzad, then like after we left, my good friend from my lacrosse team in college, actually, Jammer, he was an engineer lieutenant up there. So, so this dude had tried to go in the Marine Corps when he was in high school, but he had too many concussions. They wouldn't let him. Mm-hmm. So I played lacrosse with him at MCC, and he ended up graduating from RIT and then went in and became an engineer officer. So the day we flew down to get our vehicles, had just flown in country. He walked in the chow hall, right? I like yelled out as loud as I could. I'm like, hey, motherfucker, right? He looked, dude, dead at me. He was like, hey. So it just so happens that part of his platoon of guys that he had, one squad was with us up in Nowzad. You know, so
chances, man.
Yeah. So when he was there for a bunch of time, I was there. I tried to get him going on patrol with us, but the CO finally saw through that. I was like, no, it's not happening. You're not taking a lieutenant as a minesweeper. You know what I mean? Like, you're not doing it. I'm like, dang. I'm like, I told him, I'm like, hey, sir, like, he and I went to college together. Like, we're really good friends. So like, that's why I want to have him come with me. He was like, good try, man. Good try. You know, but like when we left, he shot every MICLIC, right? So like a MICLIC's a line charge, like shoots out like X 100 yards, right? And has like it looks like hot dogs, you know, when they're like freaking hot dogs or sausage or
they're spinning on the
rolled up.
Yeah.
It looks like that, but it's all C4. So it hits the ground, then it blows up and clears a lane. He shot every single one of those things in the operation clearing Nowzad after we left, right? And like, a demining agency went in there. Like, that's how many IEDs are in that place.
That's crazy.
You know? So it's like and then like, you know, the Taliban were starting to get crafty, right? So like we'd have to change how we would hit a target because SF team went up, like came down a wall, stepped on IED, and there was an IED in the wall and blew a dude's head off, right? So like now we're like, all right, now we got to come at an angle, approach the doors, or if we were working with commandos, we did that a bunch, right? We'd be like, hey, it's their country. Send them in first, right? It's like, hey, get in there, right? Like they walk through, they didn't get blown up. We're like, all right, now we're going, right? I mean, it's their country. You got to make them work for it, you know? Yeah. I mean, they're like worthless anyways. Like these are like middle of a firefight, want to start smoking hashish, you know? You're like, no,
they're just
like
dip out too. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, it was a, it was like the Wild West, in that place.
What do you think is the most tense operation that you had at that time?
The most tense would be, I think, Eastern Resolve 2. So south of Nowzad was this village called Dahana, right? So Dahana had never been taken since Alexander the Great had been there or something like that, right? That was the rumor, right? Whether there's truth to that or not, I have no idea, but that's just like, that was what was common knowledge, right? So there was Mountain Pass or mountains, right? And then there's the Dahana's Pass and then another freaking mountain range. We'd already gone over that mountain one time, and just did a recce, like done some reconnaissance surveillance of the backside, seen what was over there, pattern of life and all that stuff. And we knew that the climbing over that ridge was literally one of the hardest climbs I'd ever done at that point in time. So the original plan is that we were going to go up this ridge, cut east, right? So I was a mountain leader. So I had a mountaineering kit with me. So we were going to set up a fixed lane, right? So we're going to go up the ridge, cut east, right? And I was going to set up a fixed lane with a rope. Basically just means I freaking tie a rope off at the top, and then dudes just use that to like around their body and just go up, walk up.
Come up.
Easier. It's not like climbing or anything like that, but I was going to bring some protection, like nuts and cams and stuff that I had just in case I had to like put some in rock or anything like that. Well, the night we're supposed to insert, one of the fobs down south went to the black on medical. So like they had a mass casualty or something like that. So we scrapped our mission because we wouldn't have any air. And then so they're like, hey, what can we do? Right, so we're going to do 48 hours or 24 hours at least of reconnaissance and surveillance of the Dahana village, a specific target they had in there before the raid. So they're like, what can you do with a condensed timeline? I was like, well, we'll just go over, cut east. There was a machine gun position on that mountain range that originally we were going to drop in from the top on, right, and clear it out. I was like, we'll have to, use the cover of darkness and go from bottom up on that. So they're like, all right, cool. That's what we do. So we go and do that. My team, my buddy Lance's team, we go over this mountain, and it's supposed to be like maybe 5 clicks, right, as the crow flies. But like we didn't take into consideration like all the undulation of the terrain and all that. Get up the backside. We're cutting east. Like my one guy, Zach, fell. Almost went, like I caught him with my leg. Like he almost went off a freaking cliff, like 50-footer. Right, like I caught him with my leg somehow. Right, like we just got broke off. We didn't have any comm. Like we finally had to stop. Call down to Las Kurga or Delaram. Right, on the SATCOM, right? So we couldn't get a hold of the fob. Something with that mountain, all that just blocked all comms. So like we finally, and when you're talking on SATCOM, like you got to talk like slow, like a robot, like this is right, like that. So like I'm trying to tell them who we are, right? I'm trying to tell them, call this phone number, which is Fob Caffaretta, and tell them we'll be in our position on time, right? That's all I needed. But it took like forever because they're like, who are you? Yeah. Right? Because like they don't recognize our call sign because we're not in that area. Right? So I was like, finally I had to be like, we are a recon team south of Nowzad, right? You need to call the fucking fob at this number and tell them this. Right? Like, and you're like, you're supposed to like, like use brevity on the radio in case the enemy can hear you. Right? I'm like talking, I'm like telling them like, I am a recon team. This is where I am. Please tell them to not shoot at us. Right? In the morning, right? We'll be where we need to be. And we're broke off, man. And, so we're like, all right, the machine gun position is supposed to be like right there. So one last push, boys, like suck it up. Right, let's move. So we go up there. No one was in the machine gun position, thank goodness, because like that would have sucked big, huge Harrys because we were broke off. So we get in position, right, and then the raid's supposed to be going down. Like we got in position, I don't know, probably an hour or minute and a half, 2 maybe before the raid went down. So when the freaking bird's coming in, right, so the bird's coming in, with the grunts on, hit this target. There's tracers coming out of the target, hitting the bird, right? We're like, oh shit. Like, dude, they're about to get fucked up, you know? And so my buddy Kevin, who's with us, he was with us as a JTAC. He's trying to talk to the Cobras, to the Cobra section, right? He's lasing the target with a freaking ISLID, right? With infrared laser. And we've got strobes on, right? Lead and trace, these green strobes, and they put out a good size freaking, signature. So it's my team. You go down, right? And then it's Lance and his guys, right? We're in this like crevice, I think that'd be the best way to explain it or whatever. And so Kevin's standing up, he's snaking the target, right? And all of a sudden, right? And there's like, the birds landing, freaking grunts are freaking shooting the target. And all of a sudden the Cobra comes around and lases us, right? So they have pod on their aircraft, right? And so that laser goes down me, goes down the whole patrol, and is going back and forth on our last two guys. And all of a sudden the freaking first birds just start shooting rockets at us, right? And rockets are hitting like 15 yards from us. Right. I'm like, get down, like grab Kevin, like pulled him down because he's like yelling at the freaking aircraft. Like, what the fuck? I'm like, get down. Right. Like like the world's blowing up around us. I'm like, dude, like scariest moment in my entire freaking life, man. I'm like, dude, no wonder the Taliban run from these damn birds, man, because that shit is scary as hell, dude. Like, wrong team. So the second bird shoots machine guns at us. And like I'm yelling at Tharp, Zach, my RTO. I'm like, dude, call them off. He's like, I'm trying. He's trying to call the freaking because there's a convoy coming down from Nowzad, from the FOB up there, right, to help like clear out, the objective and secure everything. So they're going to build a company outpost or a battalion outpost or a platoon outpost there, right? And like we're trying to radio them. Right, Kevin finally gets a hold of the fast movers, the fixed wing, because freaking for some reason the Cobras, the attack helicopters, they were in the open, like they're supposed to be encrypted, like we were. There's also supposed to be no fire area around us, right, which clearly nobody paid attention to, and so finally got a hold of the fixed wing, which called down to them because they're coming back around to like finish us off, right? So like. Definitely the most scary moment of the entire deployment. I would say right there, 100%. And like we made even worse because like our own team was shooting at us. Our own people were shooting at us, and in the investigation they found out that they BZO'd their pod wrong, so that's why they missed us. Thank goodness, obviously, right? But they said that they thought that our strobes were machine gun fire, and we're like, hey, dumbass. At what point in time have you seen an AK shoot at you like this? Bang, bang, right? Very rhythmic, right? And they said that they thought that the laser was shining up at us. But if you're standing there doing this with your wrist back and forth, right? Like, and then that laser's going down the whole side of a compound, like that dog don't hunt. You know what I'm saying? Like that don't go. Right. So that's how we started out the morning, right there getting shot at by our own people. And then we had a dude come running out trying to set up a freaking IED, and we're like, oh yes. So this is like the convoys coming down. Like this is like textbook stuff right here. Like it's like what like people you're like learning about what's current things that are going on in country, right? And they're like, oh, people will go out and they'll hook up IEDs, and we're like, yeah, well, we haven't seen that yet. Well, like today this happened. Dude sneaks out, dude, and he's like being super shady, and he's just down on the side of the road, dude. You could see him. Right? Hooking up wires. Like, all right, let's do a coordinated shot on this dude. Right? So like I had a sniper rifle, or I had a Mark 11. My ATL had a Mark 11, and my buddy Lance had a 50 cal. So like, sweet, let's do a countdown, right? Like perfect. Like what's the range? Like 750, right? And then Kevin's like, dude, I'll count down. Right? And all of a sudden he just starts counting down. He's like 5, 4, right? And we're like finishing dial. We're like, oh, wind here, right. And everybody shoots on the TIA 2, right? So he's like 3, and all 3 was like, right? And old Lance, he's like, ba-doom! That freaking 50 cal rock your soul, right? And all 3 rounds, right, hit like right at this dude's feet, right? Within like 6 inches of him, right? He like dances around a little bit, like jumps in the ditch, right? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, dude, we're all butthurt, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I see his little hat in the ditch. I'm like, the dust and spot for me, like, I shoot, right? It goes like right by his head, right? And he's like, a little bit to the right, like hold here. I'm like, shoot again, like goes to the other side, right? And it's a freaking pretty long poke. But I'm like, this pisses me off. Like his little hats now I've got a vendetta, you know what I mean? It's like, the dude like came to the ditch and I shot and it somehow just hit him right in the freaking stomach. He went and crawled in his little hole. But he's like, oh yeah, well, got him. Like everyone's all freaking, we're all happy up there. And then a little bit later, all these freaking, so this mortar team goes freaking into this little building, right? And the javelin gunner with us, this dude Green, super crazy that I met his best friend like last year, just randomly. So this dude Green, we'd take him out on a couple operations, like to be our javelin gunner, and he freaking, I was like, hey, Green, there's the target. Light it up, man. He's like, oh yeah. Right. So he freaking launches a javelin at it and freaking, so we blew those dudes up. Then the freaking Cobras came back and they shot the round compound. So like they did not like do too good that day. There was a big ass like 14.7 or something like that millimeter machine gun up on the other side of the mountains that like these tricky sons of bitches, like you couldn't see it, right? So they had like the way that the mountain range went, right? They had this gun on a finger, right? That was protected by one in front of it, but they could shoot like over it. Like, so it was like a very, very covered position. Like, and we couldn't see where these dudes were. We couldn't see them shoot, right? But the gun would only go off like 2 or 3 times. It'd be like, "Gah, right? And then like, you'd see like boom, 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 right? And our one buddy was an engineer, Richie, he was in his vehicle, bent down. One of the times that they shot, he had bent down to get someone off the floor and heard a crack. And like looked up and there was a freaking bullet hole in his freaking windshield. Yeah. And like, so these dudes are like shooting. So we pretty much like, Kevin pretty much blew the whole other side of the mountain off to like get these guys. Right? Like A-10s are hitting it. The Cobras, I mean, they could hit the side of the mountain, thank goodness, right? But fucked out everything else up that day, right? Bastards. Yeah. Right? Like, dude, like I was telling you, somebody's going to watch, like one day, someone's going to watch one of these podcasts. You're like, oh, dude, I was repent in Afghanistan. That was me that did that. And I'm going to have some serious bad words with you, bro. Like, no, I'm not buying you any beers. I might hit you with a beer bottle for like, dude, for shooting at us, you know? Like, what the fuck? Right? But so they shot a couple wrong compounds that day, but like
they're all fucked up that day.
Oh, dude, they said, hey, look, everybody has a bad day. Like that almost made their bad day like our bad day too. Yeah. Like you can have a bad day, just don't drag me into it, you know? So we ended up staying up in that position for a couple days, like till we were basically like out of water. And then we swapped out with a couple dudes. It was a rough couple days up there. Like, and then we ended up staying down there in Dahana for a while. We cleared a bunch of caves on the other side of the mountain and blew them up. That, right? Like just the mountains just make everything more difficult, you know, like and we're like the platoon who's like willing to do like whatever, right? Like we'll go clear stuff with the grunts. We'll go on patrol with the grunts. Like we're here to work, and you know we're here to like one team, one fight. Like how are we going to slay more bodies together type thing, you know? Between us, the sniper platoon, and the grunts, because like we had like there was the grunts had like 2 Mexican standoffs with the Afghanis down there, like M4s and AKs like pointed at each other. Like one of them was because like this dude Rodden, one of the Afghani dudes was freaking throwing shit on his vehicle, right? Like dropping a deuce and like throwing it on his vehicle, right? And he was like, hey, tell him not to do that again, right? And the dude did it again, right? And they told the Terp, like, hey man, like tell that dude not to sling like poo on my vehicle, right? Like, cause like he's doing it for a reason, right? Tell him to stop. Right. So I think he picked like the third time, he might have picked up like goat shit or something like that and like threw it on his vehicle or whatever. Right. Like Rodden walked up to dude, pulled his Kevlar off, hit this dude right in the face with it, knocked him out like cold. Right. And you're like, oh shit, fuck that dude up, you know? But dude like woke up, grabbed an axe, declared a blood feud on him. Right. So now freaking Marines and Afghanis are like pointing loaded weapons at each other. Another time, I don't even remember why it was. They had a like literally dudes on posts right next to each other, like, and you could hear the weapons come off safe, like click, 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 and you're like, dude, what the hell? And we like the day we were clearing out caves up over there on that side of the mountain range, we got freaking shot at by the Afghanis, right? Like, and we're like, and like one of the rounds like literally skipped to a halt at my point man's feet. You know, like, so I brought, like, we picked that up and brought it down later on and, like, went up to the commander, and like, hey, stop being fucking stupid. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, we forgot you were up there. Like, oh, yeah, you forgot a bunch of guys are up there blowing shit up, right? Like, blowing caves up. You know, like, we blew one, like, we shoved the shaped charge up in the roof of this cave and blew the whole front of it off and, you know, almost hit one of our vehicles down there. But, like, that whole, everything that we did down there in Dahana was, it was just a long couple of weeks that we're down there. Cause, we ended up going up on going to the other side of the mountain range where we found the frickin' all those machine guns and shit. And, we had an observation post up there. We got shot at from a cave where we had just been on the other side. That was supposed to be clear. We started getting shot at from there, you know? And we freaking dumped some 50 cal rounds into that cave, and he didn't bother us. But then the Afghan National Army guys in the police checkpoint started shooting up at us and almost freaking blew our heads off, right? And you're like, dude, what is this real life right now? You know? So like dealing with those guys, right? That was always a stressor. You know, whether it was like even the commandos, like when we did hits with the company, we worked with their commandos that they trained and stuff, and then we helped train and all that, and like those dudes just did like whatever they wanted. You know what I mean? Like they're just like,
I've heard that from multiple guys. Essentially useless. Like
whether it's like smoking hash in the middle of a firefight, right? To like, they're like, you're in the middle of a firefight and they're just in the people's gardens picking up watermelons and picking pomegranates and stuff. You're like, hey, go get on your gun. You know what I'm saying? Right? Or like they're up there shooting, right? Like dude, Marky freaking drops a whole magazine. He's like, brat, brat, like 3-round bursts, the whole magazine. Dude's got a steel pot helmet on, right? And he just looks at his empty magazine, just throws it behind him. He's like, fuck me. We're like I pick up the magazine, I'm like, Mark, like we reload these, you know, like put that in your pocket, you know? Right? So he puts in his pocket, like shoots another 3 rounds, and Zach's like, hey, the rounds are only landing like 100 yards out in front of us. I'm like, well, crank his his elevation up on the back of his gun, right? So he can shoot like 500 yards where that damn compound is, you know? So he does that, drops a whole nother magazine. He looks at it, he's like, fuck me, and just throws it behind him. I'm like, oh. I'm like, bro, Mark magazine, you know? Like,
we
and he's
keep
like,
those.
Yeah, like the dude looked like an Afghan version of Marky Mark, like the guy had fought the Russians when he was a kid. Like, it was freaking crazy, you know? So like, you got to contend with that stuff, or like, you know, like, yeah, the Afghan National Army and National Police, like those dudes were always the wild card, and they usually didn't like each other. So like the National Army and the police guys, they had a firefight on the fob one time. And there's like their camp, A&A was like right here. There's like a little wall, right, like waist high that separated them. And then the ANA and MP, like each has their respective size. And like first time the shower, they set up the shower tent finally after being there for like 6 months. We start hearing freaking AK fire, like pop, 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 pop. And we're like, what the fuck, right? Like rinse off, go running out. And there you could see them shooting at each other, right? We just ran through our compound, closed the doors, and we're like, dude,
let them settle
that shit at the OK Corral out there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Right? You ruined my shower, you bastards. But yeah, those dudes were always like you just didn't know what you're going to get with them, you know? And, you know, I could discuss why that is for a long time, but neither here nor there, you know, like just keep it like regionalized people. We'd have done better there.
I guess kind of like a bit of a transition there is like talking about the Taliban. You know, I mean, plenty of stories come out on just some of the evil that you guys would see over there, the way that they, you know, whether it's seeing the aftermath or in real time, seeing some of the action they did. Does anything stand out in your head that really kind of speaks to that or really stood out to you in terms of you recognized kind of the evil you were fighting?
Yeah. A dude, when we're sitting up in a hide, I'd just gone down on for rest plan. And, you know, some older dude, right? Come out of the village on a moped with a kid on the back of his moped and laid his little prayer mat out in the ditch and was like having his way with the kid. Right. And the dude that we had brought up, one of the javelin gunners that we brought, Clark, he's like, Koup, you guys see this? I'm like, what? Right. And he's like, look right down there in the ditch, right? Like 2:00, like right there, base of the mountain. And this dude's down in the ditch with this kid, right? Like having, like I said, raping him. You know, that's what he's doing, is raping him, you know? And he's like, can we kill them? Right now I was like, dude, we can't actually, because we're covert, like we're clandestine here, right? But like, there's nothing in the ROEs that says that we can kill that dude. So like, just don't watch it, right? But like that stuff like that is, I mean, that's just like that is
commonplace.
Evil. I mean, it's commonplace, but that is like real evil, right? Like you can be like, oh, that's their culture or whatever, right? But like, it's part of their culture, and that's not okay, right? You know, that the IEDs that they made, right? Like, I don't think that average people like understand, right? Like that these things are built to maim, right, people and create massive infections, right? Like it's that whole, like if you kill one, you just kill one, right? But if you injure one, you take out 10. You know what I'm saying? Because dude, you hit like clockwork. IED goes off, bam. And now Zed, like especially district center, IED goes off, you're getting shot at within a couple minutes, right? That's like the signal, right? Because they know that there's going to be multiple people caring for the Marines that are injured, right? And that's, you know, out of a squad, right? That could be half of the squad out of the fight. And that means only half of them are fighting them, right? And like, so, and the way that they constructed these things, right? Start putting them in walls, right? Start doing like everything was made, right, to injure, you know, and kill, right? And I feel like that country itself, like everything that's there is like wants to kill you, like whether it's the wasps, right? They're like translucent, nasty looking bastards, right? Like everything that country just wants to kill you, you know? But like when you see that stuff, right? And like it like numbs you to almost like, because you think of them as not human, you know what I mean? Or you see that your friend just stepped in on an IED, you know, and like I had like Lemke, like I was jacking steel in the gym with that dude. Like that morning, it was like, hey, good luck tonight. You know, catch up with you tomorrow, whatever, right? And dude, I never saw him ever again, you know, and he freaking died because he got an infection that just spread up and up and up into his stomach and internal organs, you know? And that's terrible, you know, but like, you know, doesn't makes you not have a soul towards those people at all, you know? And, you know, it's like, it's rough, you know, because some dude, the Taliban might have said, you will go and take this AK and go shoot at them today, right? Or maybe they get paid, need some extra money and decide to pick up an AK that day and make some money and whatever. Or, you know, just, you know, that freaking drugs, like the freaking farmers there that are like, you will, you know, Taliban told me I will grow opium, so I will grow poppies, so I'm growing poppies, right? I don't know. It's just like, when you're there, right, you're just there to like do your job, you know, and like there's been tons of people who left comments on some of my stuff, like, oh, spoken like a complete psychopath, right? Or like, you know, or like, oh, you think everything's funny. Like now I might as well just laugh at the stuff, right? Like, like if you do as much time in the military as I have, right, like you're going to have some stories that are the most insane, non-believable story. Like they're just unbelievable, but like it's stuff that happens. And every guy, whether you did 4 years or you did freaking 15 or 30, has multiple stories. And it sounds like some shit you just can't make up. You know what I mean? And you know, like just you're like, there's almost sometimes, you know, like war is easy, you know, like boom, we prep for a mission, conduct the mission, we debrief, we clean our kit, we clean ourselves, right? Next day, right, we get ready to start running another operation, right? That's easy, right? The constant worrying about IEDs, right? Like that sucks. That's the worst part of your day, honestly. Like Like, and we would always try to think like, all right, if we're going to go insert to observe this NAI, do we have to go into this district center, right? Which we don't, right? How do we move so we don't get blown up, right? Like that's inevitably was the mountains, right? Move around them, right? And set up where we can see like the whole battlefield, you know? And like, it just got to a point where it's like, you know, you just don't even like think of them as humans. You know what I mean? Like, not even that, because you know that they are, right? But like, you know, like I said, like one dude, he from 2-3 RPG, we watched this firefight kick off from where we were on the mountain. So we called it out, like, hey, here's what's about to go down. We can see that you're about to get into an ambush, right? Boom, happen. Kid gets his leg blown off with an RPG, right? Clean. Dude, thumbs up all the way to the medevac helo, gives his buddies thumbs up. We're like, hell yeah, that dude's going to make it, right? Find out later that he had a damn aneurysm on the bird and he died. You know, and like, you know, just freaking, you know, that stuff sucks. And, you know, like now, you know, looking back at everything, right? Like, and we could sit here and we could talk not conspiracies, but facts about the war, why it happened, et cetera, right? And how it played out and like how it ended, right? And, you know, like as a kid, right, you'd always hear about like, oh, you know, what happened with the Vietnam guys, right? And all that. And like my generation of guys, like we understand, right? Like
100%.
You know, like would I change, like people hear me talk and stuff and like would you change anything? Right. And the answer is honestly, no. You know, I wouldn't, because, you know, I went in, right. I went back in at that point, you know what I mean? And like I said, war is easy, right? I was there to do a job, right. And do it well, right? So that's what I was there to do, right? At the end of the day, right, when the bullets start flying, right, it doesn't matter like what, you know, rank, what race, color, creed, right, guys are, right? It's Americans, right, versus the enemy, right? It's either us or them, and like it's going to be them, you know what I mean? And like, you know, you're not thinking about mom, apple pie, you know, American patriotism or whatever, right? Like we're here, right, as men fighting other men, right? Fight, win, right, and be able to fight another day, right, and prove that we're men, right, and that we are the superior warrior. You know what I mean? That's like what it boils down to in those moments, right? Not the national defense, you know, a strategy, right? You know what I mean? Like, and you discuss and talk about those things, right, at a later date and how you fit into everything. You know what I mean? But like,
I had a buddy that was literally talking about this, and he was saying a lot of guys come on the show and he's like surprised that a lot of them say they really felt they lost touch with the country with, you know, the aftermath of GWAT and everything. And I say, but every guy always says it's the brotherhood around you, the guys around you that you're fighting for and that you want to make sure are coming home for you. That's what matters. Like not the, you know, they don't want to get that general as next star. They don't give a fuck about that. They care about the guys on the ground with them.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I mean, it, you know, it's, you know, you sit and watch the news and whatever, right? You could get really discouraged really quickly, you know, if you just rely on that. But like, you know, when we take guys on hunts, right, and they're with, a lot of our hunts are like with regular American people, right, who are just thankful that don't matter what job they did, just that they served, you know what I mean? And when you bring guys around that, right, they're like, this is why I did what I did, you know? And, you know, they get to go hang out with some like-minded individuals too. Yeah. And that all plays into it, you know? And a lot of guys who will get out, you know, they'll freaking, you know, they lose touch with the brotherhood, right? And then they are in danger of becoming a statistic, you know, and what you see a lot now that we didn't have during that time was a lot of politics has seeped into the military, right? You'll see, Marines, Army, and whoever branch of service, right? Like the colonel that just got relieved from the Space Force in Greenland for talking trash about Vance and Trump, right? Like that didn't happen back in the day. Like the military is supposed to be apolitical, right? A colonel would never dare do that. But that's what bothers guys the most.
Yeah. That
bothers guys more than the pullout, right? Is that the military has become so politicized, right? That like, that's, people don't understand that like that division is what loses wars, right? If you're in the middle, look, was I the most happy that Obama was the commander in chief? No. I mean, he did lie and he was like, I'll pull people out of Afghanistan and then sent 10,000 more troops in there, right? That was cool. Like, but like none of that mattered, right? Like I went in when Clinton was still in office and we had Bush, like none of that. It's your commander in chief. You know what I mean? So like that politicization of the military, like that needs to end. Like, post haste, like sure, right? It's like we joke in the community about like you don't talk about sex, religion, or CQB, right? Like close quarters battle, right? Because it just leads to arguments, right? Arguments, right? But like, hey, you don't like politics shouldn't even be a discussion, right? For our military, right? Because no matter who the commander in chief is, you still have to say. You still signed a contract, right? And said yes, sir.
That's why I wanted to bring this up too, because I mean, part of it too is not glorification, but humanization, whatever the word would be, of the Taliban and like of those, Hamas is obviously one that's gotten a lot of, whatever recently, but Taliban specifically, obviously post Afghanistan withdrawal and, them coming just with, I hear it time and time again, especially the first part you talked about, how just massive that is over there. And it's like, if you want to bring that up though, and this bleeds into politics, which I think whether you're red or blue, our foreign policy should be relatively the same, because at the end of the day, foreign policy is about keeping us safe. Like there really shouldn't be much debate on it. Now, how we go about it, sure, but it seems like the debate a lot is, you can't have enemies. You can't be looking, you can't be talking about, again, the Taliban is an example of like what you're saying, where it's like, reality, they're acting inhumane. They're very evil. ISIS, very evil.
Right.
Should be able to, all indications, be able to be as upfront and straightforward about that. And I always hate that when, people will try to go against soldiers saying that, it's like what you were saying, people comment and being like, oh, it's like, you guys don't understand the evil that these people actually conduct.
Right.
See, even have like cartels and stuff. I'm like, you guys, we cannot be glorifying people that will happily kill thousands with no remorse.
Right. I mean, some guy was trying to have a conversation with me. And he was like, oh my gosh, we're cutting off aid to Africa. Now children are going to starve to death. I'm like, dude, people have been starving to death there for thousands of years. Right. And I was like, do you understand what happens to aid in a lot of countries? Right. That aid is taken by warlords. Right. The warlords give that aid to whom they see fit. Right. And like the guy's like, oh man, I guess you're an African expert now. And like this and like that. And like, no, I'm just telling you what the reality of the situation on the ground in a lot of those countries is, could things have been done differently, right? Whether that been the retaliation to the Taliban after post 9/11, absolutely, right? Could the invasion been handled differently for Iraq? Absolutely, right? But I mean, sure, right? Is there all these hypotheticals as to why and how long the war lasts and all that stuff, right? Yeah. And lining politicians' pockets and whatever, right? But at the end of the day, like in uniform, you're like,
you're there to do the job.
I got a job to do. I signed a contract, right? And right, like when you're retired, right, and you really start going down rabbit holes and stuff like that. Like I did a huge deep dive of geopolitics, like pre-World War I till current times. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I see why things are the way they are, But in uniform, you have a job, right? And a lot of the people that are sitting there naysaying, right, to all these people, right, like guys that go on, like Sean Ryan's or on your show, right? All these naysayers, right, are all people that they didn't put on a uniform, right? So you're like, and like people will comment like, whatever, like insert, insult here, right? Whether you're a psychopath or right. During one operation, I had a couple guys go out and shoot a freaking law into a door to open it. Well, they missed and hit 6 feet to the right. I told the CO, right, that the door was open. Well, and they're like, well, number one, you injured your guys because they didn't put ear pro in, right? I'm like, well, you don't always have ear pro in combat, right? Like I dumped 10 rounds out of a sasser of a 50 cal with no ear pro in it. That hurt really bad too, by the way. And I never made that mistake ever again. But right, like, not all the time did we have ear pro on back then. We didn't all have Peltor headsets, right? And all that fancy stuff dudes have now. Like even grunts got high cut helmets with Peltors on them, right? Like we didn't have that all the time, right? And the guy's like, oh, well, you injured them because they didn't have ear pro in and you lied to your CO. I'm like, listen, man, that's the decision I made on the ground because our CO could be super freaking finicky at times, right? And we knew how he was. It was better for us to just say the door was open, right? And we just hit the sucker with a dang 500-pound bomb within like 10 minutes later anyways. Right. So like, doesn't really matter. Right. At that point in time, that's the decision that I made on the ground. Right.
It's part of war.
Whatever. Right.
Happens.
Yep. Because like, had I said the door was closed, he might have either even said, do you have another law? No, we didn't. Or maybe you got to go across 200 yards of open ground, right, and open that door yourself and then go in and take that compound, which at that point in time, we're getting pretty heavy fire from. So we weren't doing that. Like I said, we dropped the bomb on it a couple minutes later, But like you can only armchair quarterback dudes who've done the job so long, right? Because the thing that most people don't understand is that no plan survives first contact. As soon as you step off that bird or out of that vehicle or you leave the wire, right, something can go wrong, right? And when shit goes wrong, you just make the best freaking decision and adjust to it, adapt to it and freaking keep rolling, So
yeah, I mean, it's funny too. A lot of people love to go after, the soldiers, guys on the ground, and it's like, and I had Professor Jeffrey Warrow on who wrote a deep dive into the Vietnam War, basically the politics around it too, and how the CIA and the Kennedy administration had run scenarios that they knew exactly how Vietnam was going to play out. Same thing happened in the Johnson administration for Nixon. Nixon went behind and stopped a deal between North and South Vietnam because he said, hey, I have a great plan. And his plan was just to bomb the shit out of Cambodia and not to do anything. And it led to 20,000 more guys dying. Like, those are the people, the decision makers that, as you're saying, like, there could have been significantly better strategies. There could have been significantly better ways to approach it. But pretending like you guys have to say when you guys just do an operation versus if you actually push for transparency and good leaders, and we'll talk about this in a sec, like to get away from that politicization, you get good leadership who make good decisions, who let the war actually operate how it should. Not what happened with Vietnam or again, just poor planning and.
Yeah, I mean, politicians are involved, right? We're not allowed to fight and win, in Vietnam. So, like the book When Hell Was in Session, it's about Admiral Denton. He's like the longest. He was the longest. We don't call him POW, right? He spent, I guess, he was at the Hilton, Hanoi Hilton, the longest out of anybody, right? I don't remember, like 8 years maybe. It was a long time. So he said that I think it was in like '69. That the military was running these things called arc light strikes. So they would come in and they would just drop like just a whole formation B-52s, just carpet bomb a whole swath of area. And they were just killing just thousands of people, thousands. And he said that the North Vietnamese were getting ready to capitulate to the United States just to get them to stop those bombing runs. And then they stopped them anyway, because of some, like, they're saying that they're inhumane. I don't remember exactly what now. It was a while since I read the book, right? But like, had we stayed the course, right, for another month or two, the North Vietnamese were going to come to the frickin' negotiating table, right? But instead, right, the frickin' politicians, the people get involved and that shouldn't be, right, who've never put on a uniform before, and then, and then look what happened, right? Yeah. So, having Pete Hegseth and like Stu Scheller as his number two, like as the head of the DOD, like that's awesome because he was a major, right, and not a general, right? Like the military has gotten so far away from being a warfighting entity that it's like very disappointing. That's probably what like most vets like disappoints guys the most, right? Seeing all this, political stuff or, DEI stuff and just all that's seeped into the freaking, military. Like that's what disappoints dudes even more than like the pullout, right? I mean, and so you couple the pullout with all that stuff, right? Like it's like, dude, what were we, there's fathers and sons that shared the same dirt over there. Right. And you just gave them all of our freaking gear and we just rolled out. Like, dude, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? So, and, and there's people over there that genuinely wanted us there. Not a lot, no, but there's a good amount. Like, the other thing too, that Americans don't understand is that most of the world hates us.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Like they love our money. Right. Like you go there for tourism or whatever, it don't matter, first, second, third world, right? They love us spending money there, but they hate us as just off principle of who we are.
Not us, yeah.
They all want to come here, right? But they can't, but they hate us, but they love our money, right? Like, so people just don't, get that. And if people don't ever travel abroad, they don't fully understand that. Like, hey,
they
if
have
you,
a good perspective.
Right. Like go see a second world country. You know what I mean? Like, and that could be as simple as go to Jamaica and leave the resort for a day and just go wander around the town.
Mexico.
Right? Yeah, go to Mexico. Right? Exactly. And then you'll be like, you know what? Like, or even you go to Europe to a tourist place. You're like, it was nice to be here for a week, but I'm ready to go back to the United States now. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I wanted to dive into some of the drug interdiction you guys did too, because I think that's something that's so slept on that was happening, around that time. Obviously, I mean, if you could deep dive it, but just Taliban, the interaction with drugs and kind of what you guys were doing, you're hitting them.
So when we did some raids with the company, like we used to joke around with the guys because like during the other guys in the company, like during Ramadan, they didn't do as many hits during Ramadan because like the commandos were like observing Ramadan, so they don't eat all day and then they'll eat at night, and it just was weird, right? So but we went down when we'd go down and do some hits with the company, right? We would, right, like these guys like, hey, we got the DEA, right, some FBI guys, right, we had this whole task force, like drug task force, right, freaking drug dogs, all that whole kit and caboodle, and we're like, oh shit, this is like for real. I mean, like up where we're at in Nowzad, like we patrol through weed fields, poppy fields, all that stuff. And like, and some of the hits, the grunts were doing and stuff would turn up some opium, stuff like that. But like the company, they were hitting targets with more like bigger drug targets. So the one operation we went down and did with them, I don't remember how many pounds of like black tar, opium they got out, but it was probably like 20 pounds maybe. I mean that, and just a whole, like they lit a freaking fire of like a massive blaze of just drugs, freaking, plants, like all kinds of stuff. And like, talking with the DEA guys and stuff like that, like, they're like, this is our, this is the new thing now. We're here to freaking do drug interdiction. So they did a lot of hits. Right. And like you'd find a guy, like one dude, we freaking took this one room down, right? The guy just sitting in the middle of the floor, like on, what happened to be a freaking trap door. And that's where freaking two massive bags, like that freaking big, like that deep of freaking black tar opium came out of, and they end up letting that dude go for like, I have no idea what reason. So, that stuff started getting real big around that time. And it did nothing to stem the flow of drugs coming out of Afghanistan, So I don't, like that whole part of it, I never really like, what was the full, what's the intent here? You know what I mean? Like they're never, like I said, they're not going to tell even in recon and force recon, right? It's not like they're going to tell you the national defense strategy, like when it comes to foreign drug interdiction, whatever, right? You're like, all right, we're cleaning, we're going to go hit a target. Awesome. Right. blow up and burn some drugs or whatever. And right, where is this playing into the problem? You know what I mean? Like, are we working up the chain of command here to get like big players, right? Like HVIs, right? Is this where we're going with it? And, you know, so at times like that stuff happened. It just was like, we didn't do enough raids with them really to get down into all those freaking rabbit holes with them. You know, like it was more like we're after like IED making facilities. And a lot of times some of that stuff goes hand in hand, right? Like you'll have a dude make, you know, got drugs, IEDs, like they're usually in this, and weapons caches, right? They're all in the same place, you know, but like, I don't know that anything that, you know, drug wise coming out, like, did it really stem the flow of narcotics coming into this country?
Kind of the same that happens with the cartel war down south. It's
right.
Like you catch one, they're getting 4 other ones right out the door.
Right.
You know? And it's like, you know, it's good to get it because, again, I mean, they're using that to fund.
Right. Terrorism.
Yeah. Like that's quite literally, at least it's
right.
Cartels, at least they just try to, you know, live the rich style and stuff and all that. But the Taliban, like, again, it's something that like was ill discussed in terms of how widespread and how interconnected they'd become with cartels and stuff. And you know, they were main producers for a lot of stuff coming here, a lot of stuff going to Europe, and right. It was funding everything.
Right. Yeah, all coming out of Afghanistan. Right. A lot of it out of Helmand province too. You know, because what was it? So like at one point in time, they had like an agricultural program. It was like, all right, well, we'll just pay the farmers to grow wheat. Instead of like, all right, this is how much the Taliban's paying you to grow opium or, you know, poppies, right? We'll pay you that to grow wheat, right? Well, the problem is like the team goes in there and negotiates that, right? And then like they leave, right? Or there's like, you know, a fob somewhere nearby or whatever, right? Troops are somewhere, right? But the Taliban come in there at night and they're like, listen, you start growing freaking wheat, I'm going to kill you and your entire family, maybe even your whole entire village, right? Guess what they're growing? Poppies, right? So like, and then, so, you know, like, I mean, is there other ways you can cut the cartels off, right? Yeah, there is, right? I mean, at this point, I say just federally legalize marijuana, right? And then federally legalize cocaine too, because rich people like to play in the snow, right? And actually, I told this to a judge in South Carolina like a couple months ago, and he was like, I thought he was gonna have a heart attack on me, right? like seriously, he was like, absolutely not, you know. But I'm like, I got to steer this conversation the other way. But I'm like, look, man, just freaking tax the crap out of it, right? I mean, is there always gonna be black market? Marijuana and cocaine, 100%, right? But like I said, rich people like to play in the snow. At least they'll know they'll get pure stuff, right? Tax the cocaine at like 200%. Who cares? Apply it directly to the deficit. Tax the freaking cannabis, right? Like legalize, you know, psychedelics for veteran use or drug addict use and all that stuff, you know, and like that'll help cut the cartels off the knees, you know.
Yeah.
But
I talked with John too, and it's like, you know, he was saying, you also still have to make it illegal for, like, you know, if you have black market stuff or whatever, because they're sending up 17-year-olds in California that can grow their own weed. They get arrested, they get a slap on the wrist, and they walk out the door. It's like you got to have that balance of both, and that's, you know, that's the way you can actually approach it. Yeah,
and you know, and then there's like with that stuff going on, right? It's like, you know what? Because I know he's talking about like rivers being boogered up and stuff like that, right? Is it better if you just legalize it so that way you can teach those guys to implement a better way so it doesn't pollute the rivers and all that other stuff, right? You know, but like certain people are very, very anti-drug anything, right? And you're not going to change their minds. Like I got a bunch of buddies like, marijuana is the gateway drug. And I'm like, look, man, I'm going to be honest with you. Like I've done way more dumb shit being drunk than I ever did when I was stoned, right? Like, let's be for real right now. Like, you know, and I like said this to a general one time. I'm like, picture a barracks full of drunk infantrymen, right? And he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, dude, poncho liner, parachutes. I'm like, dude's getting sandwiched in the freaking in between mattresses and thrown off the third deck, fights. And he's like, oh my gosh, it's just mayhem, right? I'm like, yeah, exactly, mayhem. I'm like, now. Picture, right? Imagine if you just implemented the same policy the Canadians have, right? Even Gulls may even say that, right? Right, that with cannabis when it's legal, right? No, same as alcohol, right? No alcohol 8 hours prior to duty. Do the same thing with cannabis. I was like, now think about an entire barracks full of infantrymen that are stoned, that have been smoking cannabis, right? I'm like, have you ever seen a van, right? A dude driving a car, right, that at 80 miles an hour, that's stoned, that runs a red light and like kills a minivan with a family in it. The dude's at the red light like, oh, it turned green, huh?
Yeah,
right,
like falls asleep.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like now, I'm like, picture this freaking barracks full of high infantrymen. I was like, you want to know what? PSTDs, right, are down, and anxiety's way down, right? They're probably playing some video games, right? They're eating some Cool Ranch Doritos, right? They're hydrating because they're, thirsty, right? Maybe they're drinking like some Code Red Mountain Dew, I don't know, right? But inevitably, right, they're thirsty. They're going to drink water and hydrate. Everyone's going to be at formation in the morning for PT. No one's going to be hungover, right? Like, and they're going to be chill. Right, and like the general's like, oh, you know what?
That's like the best way to describe that. Yeah,
right.
He's an infantry guy. Just put the two perspectives.
100%. He was like, I'm gonna have to like seriously consider that. Like that's a good point. I'm like, yeah, got him. But I don't know. The drug thing. And having that like with like conventional military stuff, like it just was like, I felt like it was like kind of weird. Like, so like they brought in this like thing, like you'd have the LEPs, right? Law enforcement professionals. Mm-hmm. So like the LEPs are helping stand up the Afghan National Police, right? And like, it's like these expectations, right? Like we'll make these people like we are, right? Mm-hmm. And like, we'll like make it like how we do things in America, right? Which is like not the right strategy at all either, like, they should just regionalize the people, right? So like your Afghan National Army guys, like if you wanted to have a local force, you should have built them out of the local area. You didn't get them from Nowzad and then shift them all the way up to frickin', dang, like Kabul or something, right? Like, because they're very tribalized, regionalized people, right? So should have done that, right? Like the drug thing. What was the end state and purpose there, right? Because we didn't do shit, right? Like a lot of work was done on the drug situation there, but look where we're at now, So like, I don't know. Yeah.
No, it's tough. I mean, again, it's an ill thing that's talked about, but it was just so rampant. And again, like it's a difficult thing to even start approaching because it's just like the one in New Mexico. Like, sure, you can take down 10 or 20, but there's 100. And so the next 80 are still going to, be able to make their money.
Yeah. Right. There's people who are just going to replace them, like other than declaring like war, right. And the Mexican government going after them.
Which they're just never going to because they make money off it too.
Right. 100%. 100%. So like what's a think outside the box, way to like deal with this. I mean, for starters anyways, like the war on drugs back in the day was a ill-conceived thing anyways.
Yeah.
Right. Like we are where we are now because all of a sudden one day, right, the government decided that all drugs are going to be the frickin' boogeyman, right? Because like hemp and cannabis was, hemp especially was big frickin' business here in the United States before they, criminalized frickin' cannabis, right? I mean, like, dude, all these drugs, all of a sudden one day they're like, nope, illegal, right? Like, and then we had the war on drugs in the 70s. Like that's
it's trained some of the cartels and stuff too for combating each other. It's a whole mess, and it's like it's what we were talking about earlier. The guys on the ground are the ones that get affected, but they don't get to make any decisions. The ones up top are the ones making the decisions.
Yeah, like part of that's like, like one, we're not allowed to win wars. Number two, right? Politicians are way too like they're involved. Right. Like we're not allowed to win wars. Right. Like, and you could say like post 9/11 wasn't handled correctly. All the Taliban had to do is hand over freaking Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
Right. Osama bin Laden, Bill Clinton should have let Billy Waugh kill him in the freaking 90s in Sudan.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but they didn't want to do it, so, and just, right. Like this, I don't know, like these people are so out of touch, right? Even like generals in the military, right? And colonels, right? Generals are grandparents these days,
never even did time cert, like never actually saw combat too. They literally
right, exactly. And like they are out of touch with the common troops. Else some colonels are, like there is, there's these lies, right? That like guys are told, right? Like we got the smartest military that we've ever had, right? But they'll tell an operator, you know, at MARSOC, right, or at Recon, right? Like, oh, you need to have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree if you want to be a master sergeant, right? Like you need to have that. Why? Why does he need to have that? Is that going to make him a better Raider or Recon Marine? Mm-hmm. Like this dude freaking like a 6-month workup, right? Which is just, you're gone all the time, working his ass off, right? And barely gets to see his family anyways. And then he's got a deployment after that. And now you want to pack in there. Now the dude has to do off-duty education, right? And do school and all that stuff. Or he's not going to has the potential to not be a master sergeant because a degree in military studies or whatever, because you can go like do Norwich or American Military University and get a degree in like military studies or whatever. Not very hard. But like, how is that going to make you a better warfighter? It doesn't. All it does is taking you away from your family more, right? Mm-hmm. And like this is why dudes' families are like why people are getting divorced, right? Because they're just always packing stuff on you, right? And the leadership has no spine to stop it, you know. And you know, like, and these guys just they're out of touch. Like senior, even staff NCOs, right, on the enlisted side, right? Like these dudes, like. The E9, right? Like a master guy. I know dudes, right, that are master guns, E9s right now, that if they would, their E5 selves, their sergeant selves would punch them in the face for acting the way that they're acting. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, you know, like the military just needs to get back to being effective war fighters, right? Not all this other bullshit, right? It's just chatter, right? It's just white noise, right? And so we just need to get back to that.
No, I couldn't agree more. I guess getting into the end of the deployment, you know, I know you talked about kind of the IED sniper team recovery that you guys did.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can kind of detail that, I think that's kind of the perfect encapsulation of the deployment, you know, and everything you saw there.
Yeah. So, you know, most of the deployment worked for 2-3, and then 3-4 ripped out. So relief in place, right? They do a big turnover, right? Turnover posts. Right, here's all the operations we've done, right? These are the, you know, tactics, techniques, procedures, TTPs that we use, right? Very in depth. And 2-3 did a great job of it, doing a rip with these guys, you know. And so a sniper team ripped out with my buddy's sniper team. We as team leaders went over to the sniper team leader. We went to the squad leaders, right? We went to the company commander and first sergeant. We're like, hey, you know, this is who we are. Right, this is what we've been doing here, right? We were all part of the RIP, even though we were staying there, right? And we're like, look, you know, we went into like ass bleeding detail. Don't go here, right, et cetera, et cetera. But 3-4 just took that shit and just threw it out the window. And part of the reason for that is that right after 2-3 left, right now, like these are the dudes that we had just spent like 6 months with, like sweating, bleeding, right, fighting with. Like these guys are our brothers, right? Mm-hmm. And the MEB sergeant major, like a couple other sergeant majors from whoever the frickin' who knows where, right? And these guys fly up, come in and talk to the squad leaders, right, and above, right? So squad leaders, platoon sergeants. So we're in there because we're team leaders and whatever, and we're still there, right? And these guys motherfucked 2-3 harder and more unprofessional than anything I've ever heard in my life, right? They're out here getting people killed. Don't be like them, right? Like naming off statistics and WIAs, KIAs, like all this stuff, right? And like we as team leaders are like, dude, fuck you, man. Right? Like we've been out here freaking sweating, like bleeding. Guys are dying out here and you want to come in and you want to talk shit, right? Like it was the most unprofessional thing that I'd ever heard. Like it seriously pissed us off, you know? And we're like, okay, well, that kind of set the tone. Cause like 3-4 was like, yeah, whatever. Like we're not going to do what those dudes told us to. Right. So like we told the sniper team, do not go in the district center. Right. And we're like, here, we've got pictures. Here's where all the places we've been. Here's where you can go. Don't go. There's no reason to go into the district center because there's no bad dudes. We killed them all. Right. There's nothing's been going on there. If you want to go somewhere, go here, wherever. Right. Or fall in on the intel plan. Right. Like we'll do this together. Right. Well, they sent a team out to the district center anyways. So they send a team out to the district center. They step on an IED, blows up 4 or 5 out of 6 of the team. And by like blowing up, like the doc had his eardrums blown out. Like one dude, like a couple of them were amputees. One dude's like had his jaw blown off right there. I mean, they got fucked up. So then the QRF, Quick Reaction Force, goes out. They hit an IED. Secondary QRF, which had the shock trauma vehicles. So at that time, like the docs were like 2-3. They had started this concept vehicle, like the shock trauma platoon. So they loaded a Connex box on the back of a 7-ton flatbed, and it had basically a mobile surgery center, right? So like, dude, you get blown up, right, and you're fucked up bad, right? Like they could move these guys to you. These docs could they could do blood transfusions, right? They have all life-saving stuff in there and make shit happen, right? So the second QRF goes out, right? They hit an IED. They cobble some like vehicles together, and they push to the freaking. They push as close as they can, essentially, to where the sniper team is. They call us up. And they're like, "Hey, recon, can you guys like come out, like be third QRF?" Right. This is like pretty close to when we're getting ready to go home, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me right now?" Right. So like, not really, you didn't listen to what we said. Now we got to be QRF for you. And the policy in country at the time was that you weren't allowed to leave the wire in anything other than MRAPs. Right. And we have 4 gun trucks or 5 gun trucks and 1 MRAP. So guess what we went rolling out of the wire with? Gun trucks and an MRAP in the most heavily IED'd area in freaking country. Right. So like, and like it sounds like, I'm not saying like we didn't want to go out there. Obviously we want to go help our brothers, but like, it's fucking maddening that we told you that you went somewhere, right? That like you shouldn't have gone. This is what's happening. Yeah. Right. And now you're calling us for fucking help, and you didn't want to listen to what the hell we said from Jump Street. You know what I mean? So it's super frustrating. So, so we went out, obviously. In that time, right, the first sergeant had sent a dude down the alley, right, to like push to the sniper team that was wounded. And that dude stepped on an IED and was killed. Right now, the guys on the ground told us that first sergeant sent him down there, right, without a minesweeper, even though he was told that they needed a minesweeper, right? That's the SOP, right, to sweep for mines going down the alley, right? That's what the dudes on the ground told us. We were not there at that time, but that's what we were told, right? And because some dudes corroborated after the Urban Valor thing. So, Urban Valor podcast. So, we push, like we get there and we're like trying to get a brief on the situation, right? The first sergeant's like standing there, like condition black. And like by that, I mean like staring off into space, right? And like Kevin's like, "Hey, first sergeant, like, you know, you want to get the LZ ready, right?" And this dude's like staring off into space. And he's like, "Hey, first sergeant, you know, once you get the LZ ready, right, we'll go push to the team, right?" And he's like, non-responsive, right? Just like I said, condition black, staring off into nowhere, right? And he's like, "Hey, why don't you get on the truck? Right, we got this. Mm-hmm. Get on the truck." He's like, "Yeah, I'll get on the truck." Right? So he gets on the truck. So we pushed down the alley, marked probably over 30 IEDs, I'd want to say. Like we ran out of spray paint, we used some magazines to mark IEDs, right? And right, we start getting mortared and shot at too. And freaking, so we get to the team, right? Like the dude with his jaw blown off, like that dude's holding security, right? Like our SARCs were with us, like our corpsmen. And right, so they're getting them freaking like triaged, you know, getting them ready to move. And we moved out with these guys, right? Like the dude I'm carrying, like he's like, "I need some water," right? I'm like, "Dude, like, I can't give you no water, bro," you know? He's like, "Dude, I need some water." Like they've been on the ground for like probably an hour or more easily, you know? Like, so there's like the golden hour, right? Like if you have people like missing limbs and shit, like catastrophic injuries, like if you can get them out within an hour, usually they're going to survive, you know? I mean, within reason, right? And it's been over that already, right? So I was like, "Look, man, I'll give you some water," right? I was like, "But don't you fucking die on me. like, don't die on me. I'll come to the spirit world. I'll find you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need that shit in my conscience, right? You know, like we're already having a bad day, and ain't nobody here having a good day, right? We're all having a bad day, right? Like, don't die on me. Like, I don't need that on my conscience, right? So I pull out my freaking Nalgene out of my dump pouch, right? And it was like piss warm water, right? He took some sips of that. I was like, oh, I'm like, don't do it, you know, don't. But you know, he's like, thank you. And then we freaking got him down, you know, finally got him down to the vehicles, and we're like, all right, let's freaking, you know, move them to the LZ, right? Load these dudes up. Got in my truck, right? And we're freaking backing down the alley out of there, right? And I'm like, got my door open like a freaking dumbass. And I'm freaking like, make sure my driver stays in the tracks of the vehicle in front of us or behind us. I mean, we back out. MRAP goes past us and hits a freaking, I think it was like 50, 75 pounder. I mean, big IED, right? It was big enough. It might have been bigger. I don't know. Yeah, it was at least a 50 pounder, but it was big enough that it lifted my vehicle off the ground because it was like 10 feet in front of us, right? It was big enough that I thought that we hit that motherfucker, right? So I'm like, dude, checking, you know, checking my groin, my legs, make sure they're all there, right? Like I'm yelling up to my gunner, right up to Matty Lou. Like I'm like, hey, dude, are you good? Right, are you there? Are you there? Right? Because he had his like feet up on the turret for some reason. And he was put his feet down. He's like, yeah, I'm here. Right, I seen like something in the ditch over there through the dust. It looked like a human leg, like sitting up. I'm like, all right, my gunner's here, but I didn't see the gunner from the MRAP, which is my slack man, Crozier. Right? I'm like, Johnny. I'm yelling, and all of a sudden I see him. They opened the door of that vehicle of the MRAP. Because there was so we had a lot of dudes in the MRAP because we had shifted some people from some of the down vehicles and stuff. So we had like way more dudes than should have been in the MRAP in there. And like John, he don't even remember Crozier. He don't even remember getting blown up. So found out that wasn't him, right? But they had to get the dude like him off the vehicle because he was like, dude, knocked out, like. 90% of the platoon had grade 2 or 3 concussions from that IED right there, like alone. Right. So we like get them off the vehicle, right? Like after that happened, right? Like we're trying to unsort shit. Like, you know, we got to get these dudes to the LZ, right? Because freaking Pedro, the freaking PJs, right? They're freaking flying around. They're like, dude, that guy was ready to rappel in. He's like, dude, you need cover fire. You want me to rappel down? We're like, no, like we're going to get these dudes to the LZ. You know what I mean? And like they were like that dude, he wanted in like right then. The freaking battalion commander and gunner from 3-4, they just come rolling up right in an MRAP right out of nowhere, right? And they just jump out of their vehicles, right? And they're walking around. I got the freaking door open. I'm like, hey, like what the fuck are you doing? Like get the fuck in your vehicle. Like you don't walk around anywhere here without a freaking minesweeper. Right, like, and like the dude like bends into my window, right, and I see his like black oak leaf, right, like showing that he was the battalion commander, right. And I'm like, oh, hey sir, like get to your fucking truck, man. Like don't walk around here without a minesweeper, right? He's like, who are you? I'm like, I'm Sergeant Koup with the Recon too. He's like, thank you, right, and like gets back on the truck. Right, and I'm like, where did he just like hop in a vehicle and like, yeah, take me out there.
Yeah,
like, I mean, that's what I see happening, right? Yeah. And then he just jumps out and like, you know, like bless his heart. I think he's probably like, you know, getting out there to like, let me see what's happening in my troops that I came out here to visit. Yeah. Right. But like, dude, you don't get out of your vehicle without a freaking minesweeper in this part of the world. You know what I'm saying?
Especially
like,
that fucking area.
Yeah. Like right there. Right, because there's always secondary IEDs somewhere. And so, anyways, you get all people cascaded, freaking go to the LZ, right? Like I pulled the same dude off. The first guy I pulled out was the same guy I put on, but he looked like death warmed over, right? Looked like he was about to die any minute. I'm like, don't die, bro, don't die. Like the freaking Brits brought in a freaking Chinook and ran him up to some nice sweet nurse on his freaking litter. All those dudes lived too, minus the one that died. You know, so that, and then we had to go back out there, get all the down vehicles, right? So we like, you know, spearheaded the charge to do that because like, you know, a lot of these guys out there, like I said, since I did talked about this story like on Urban Valor, right? Like there's dudes who are like very upset about it, right? And they're like, there's no way that happened, right? Like Sergeant Major Ruiz is just the best, right? Right? And I didn't call them any names. I just told a story of what happened, that we saw, right? In our platoon was a whole platoon of non-commissioned officers, E4 and above, right? No non-rates. There's a lot of guys out there that were lance corporals at the time or PFCs, and now they're like master sergeants or whatever, right? And they're like very upset about, you know, me talking about it like that, because they're like, that's not how I remember it happened. I'm like, dude, we were right there. That's what happened, right? And then multiple people corroborate it too, right? Because like Josh is like, I'm checking this out before I freaking post this, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But like guys that were there, right, who were on their first deployment, their first firefight, first time they've seen anybody die, right? You're looking through a freaking very small straw, right? Like the eye of the gerbil, right? Is what we say in the biz sometimes, right? And we've been there for 6 months, 7 months already, right? This is our AO. We know this place. We know how this place works.
Not to fucking go there,
right? We told you not to fucking go there, bro. Yeah. As a matter of fact, right? So when you're a grunt on your first deployment, like I was on my deployment, right? Like you're not seeing the big picture for what it is. Right, especially when you're in your first freaking firefight, first time you're seeing, that could have been that dude's best friend. Might have known him since boot camp, right? You're not thinking in that way, right? The way that we were, right? And we had way more experience in that, right? And that was what happened, right? Now, I would love to have a conversation with him someday, right? About some of the tactical, some of the decisions that were made, right? That I feel were wrong, right? That cost a Marine's life, right? But you know what? Like, he could sit there and he could say like, oh yeah, I made a poor decision. And I live with that regret every day. You know, if that's the case, that's the case, right? And a lot of people would be like, oh, well, he was a pogue who spent that much time on the drill field and blah, blah, and he should have never been there anyways. Well, I mean, but like anybody in that situation could have made any day on the battlefield, right? Like I said, no plan survives first contact, right? But anybody can make a poor decision, right? But the problem that I have is that, right, he went condition black instead of being a leader at that time, right? Like our platoon took over and we finished that day. You know what I'm saying? Like we had Marines that we had brothers that we were going to save and we were going to fucking do it. You know what I mean? So we took over, right? Like, and Kevin and our lieutenant, freaking Chris, like they took over the freaking scene and we made it happen.
That never should have been there too.
Right. So, right. Like, conversation, right. As to what happened. Right. But I mean, that'll never end up happening. You know what I mean? But, and like we just did, we were just there to help, yeah. So
the fact you guys got those guys out too is just remarkable.
Yeah, and they all lived. That's freaking awesome. Like I didn't even know the dude's name till I did that Urban Valor episode. Really, because I just never, I guess, thought about it like that. And it was a bad day for everybody. You know what I mean? And it just fucking sucked. Now, like I said, I would love to have a conversation. I don't know why that happened, right? Like what, and then couple months ago, like 6-7 months ago, like he did a thing, right? And I was talking about that day, right? Sergeant Major Marine Corps. Right now, like I'm retired, right? So it really don't matter what I say, but like he was talking about, oh, I remember that day I was in the vehicle, right? And I remember Marines knocking on the hatch of the vehicle, right? And there was wounded coming in, right? And I know who knocked on the hatch. Right, because everything he said in that video is stuff our platoon was doing, right? But he didn't even know that because that's how out of it he was mentally, right? Because my point man called me up and goes, yo, dude, I was the one who knocked on the hatch, right? Me. My freaking, at the time he was a NARC, non-amphibious reconnaissance corpsman.
I love that when I heard you say that.
Because he hadn't been all the way through the pipeline yet.
That's so well crafted. Right? So well crafted.
So I called him my NARC. Right? But he was like, dude, I was the one who knocked on that door. I was like, I know you were. Right? So it just, that kind of is like, his description of that day is not accurate, and yeah, I never really like thought about it like till I told that like story, that I'm like, that's some bullshit, because that Bronze Star with the V is probably from that day, right? And I know that we got put in for Bronze Stars, but they just disappeared, right?
It's literally what we were talking about earlier. It's the politics. All of it goes up and up, and the people that fail upward, they fail upward pretty consistently. Yeah,
and you know, like it's been a long time since, you know, we've had people in higher, you know, the chain of leadership and command that are like, you know, I know why Ruiz is the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, right? He looks like a pretty Marine, right? He's pretty articulate, right? He's a immigrant, right? He's Hispanic, right? We've never had a Hispanic Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, all this stuff, right? So he checks all these boxes, right? But he doesn't check off to like, hey, this is like war, like we're here to freaking make war fighters. We're here to win wars, right? He doesn't check like that box, right? Like the Marine Corps, like we live on this legacy of like, you know, World War I, like Belleau Wood, and then the island hopping campaign, and, you know, in World War II, right? And we live on this legacy, like what happened in the Chosin Reservoir in Korea, right? And Hue City in Vietnam, right? And like, so we live on this freaking legacy, right? But like, that legacy is of like being war fighters, of people who win wars. So like, let's get back to that, right? For like way too long, the senior leadership, right, and command in the freaking Marine Corps has been just piss poor, right? That's just like putting it nicely. You know what I mean? Like, let's get back to being freaking war fighters here, and let's focus on that instead of all the noise. You know what I mean? So
I don't know, again, like, of course, you know, I'm saying this from a civilian standpoint, like I'm a dog in the fight, but it's just from my perspective. And of course, this is what pissed me off too. And people were talking about Headscraft when they were saying like why shouldn't we just pick a general? Like they have way more experience. It's like, it's the same typical thing where it's kind of like, you know, bringing an MBA into a company and thinking they're going to do, like, your education's great, but the on the ground experience, just, you need to be able to have that human connection. And you also got to know too, I mean, the guys that I've had on, they're like, if you're making the decision that you're going to go send guys to possibly die, you can't be thinking of it as if they're pawns on a chessboard.
Right.
You need to be thinking of them as they're the guys that you were out there with, and you recognize what that impact is because you have felt that impact before.
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference because
100%.
You
know, like these generals, like I said, number one, they're like grandfathers, right? Most of them retire and they end up on the board of like Raytheon, Boeing, right? Like insert defense company here, right? And all that tells me is that like they're bought and paid for a long time ago already.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so like, having Pete Hegseth and having new blood in there, is exactly what we need, right? And a lot of these generals need to freaking go because they are so far removed that they don't, like, sure, they understand, like, you know, Big Blue Arrow, national defense strategy and all that hunka-bunka. They don't understand what the average warfighter on the ground's doing, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, well, this sounds good. Yeah, we'll do that, right? Like, there was this huge push when I first got in the Marine Corps, and it was like, well, Fortune 500 companies don't do things like this, or this. This is what they do, right? So, like, instead of saying to a Marine, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Maybe you should say, hey, Marine, you know, like, whatever, what are you up to? Like, you know, something else, right? Like, no swearing, right? Like all this stuff, right? And it's like, sure, some of these strategies from Fortune 500 companies you can implement, but like at the end of the day, we are a warfighting organization, right? And the world is just not sunshine and roses, right? You're going to live in adverse conditions, right? People are going to yell at you, right? You have to obey orders that you don't necessarily want to, right? Or maybe don't even believe in, right? Or understand at times. Right, but it's still the contract you signed, right? And like, you know, there's good commands and there's bad commands. I've had great commands. And I've had just commands that make you want to freaking rip your hair out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, and you're like, dude, these guys are terrible. Like, how'd this guy get to be that rank? I have no idea, you know? But then inevitably a new guy comes in, like rotates every couple of years and off you go again, you know?
I always say that it's funny about the military. It's like the most racist place without any racism at all in terms of like guys can joke, they mess around. Like, you know, I mean, the locker room, like, not in that sense, but like dudes, I remember this, you know, always talking shit and all that, but it was never personal. Like nothing ever was taken serious. But anybody from the outside world that would listen in, they'd be like, well, this is like the most
like those dudes are a bunch of savages. What the hell's wrong with that?
Yeah, and it's like, yes and no. Like the whole point is we're so close and we're living through something so unique that that's just how life is.
Yeah.
When
But if somebody else talks trash to your guys, right, you're going to dogpile them, right?
You're done. Yeah.
Lacrosse was the same, same way, right? And in the Marine Corps, same thing. Like I saw a meme like a couple of weeks ago, and it was like some Air Force general was like, there is no racism in the Marine Corps because the Marine Corps treats everybody like they're black or something like that. And I was just like, oh man, that is so hilarious and true. Because like you just, like Arlie Ermy says, like in the beginning of Full Metal Jacket, he's like, you are all equal here. You are all equally worthless, like that's how you're treated when you first get to the Marine Corps.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
because
it is.
A lot of people need that because there's a lot of ego now and everything versus if you humanize yourself to that level. Yeah. That's why you guys have this eternal brotherhood. Doesn't matter their backgrounds, where they're from, what they've done. Right. 100%. You have all the respect and all for them.
Anybody can go and change their life, like no matter how you want to view politics, right? What's going on in the country, any of that stuff, right? Like there is nobody of any demographic, right, that can't go and change their life, right? Whether you're like the son of a frickin', some hedge fund manager that's a millionaire, right? And you just want to get out from that frickin' stigma of life, right? Or you're a poor redneck from West Virginia, right? Or you're someone from the ghetto in Harlem, right? Like, or you're a frickin' immigrant from wherever, right? Like you can make the decision to change your life by going in the military. Right, one capacity or the other, and then we break the military breaks those dudes down, and builds them back up in the freaking, war fighting machines, right? Yeah, right, and then it's up to you as to what you do with that, So you could stay in for 20, you can get out, use the GI Bill. I mean, there's just it's a stepping stone. It's like a part of your life's journey. But if you want to change your life, right, you can do it. Yeah. And that's why like there's no excuses, no excuses.
So let's jump into what you kind of wrapped up then too. The reason I know we talked about it at the beginning, but obviously post-deployment has kind of been a new mission. Like I said, I mean, I have so much admiration for guys like you that like afterwards are really looking for ways to, we were talking about Marcus offline, like his approach, what he's exploring. I think what you're doing is amazing too. So if you can maybe flesh that out, kind of what inspired you to do it and what you guys are looking to achieve as well.
Yeah. So, right when I first retired, all right. So I'll go back to like 2007. So I was in a Humvee rollover, not even in combat. I was out in 29 Palms. I was first a team leader at Recon Battalion. I was in a Humvee rollover, broke my femur, my back, fractured my forehead and some other stuff. And, I was sitting home, in upstate New York, eating pills, drinking too much, I'd say. I'm feeling sorry for myself and, I'm like, I got to do something to get out of this funk, right? Like, cause you start to walk, kind of tiptoe that abyss, it's like, my doctor's like, dude, you're never going to be a recon Marine again. Like you broke your body, right? Like don't plan on doing that job ever again. Right. And it's like, I haven't gotten to do a deployment yet, but as a recon team leader, like I was so close to accomplishing my goal and I didn't get to do that. Right. Like, and don't tell me that I can't do something, you know what I mean? Cause like, that's just, that dog don't hunt. Yeah. Like, you're throwing that at like the abyss, and like, all right, let's hunt. Right. So like, obviously I've done deployments, right? Like, I'm going to hunt with something primitive. I'll hunt with a bow. So I ordered a compound bow off eBay, started hobbling around the woods with a back brace and a cane and, found my healing, right. In nature, in the woods. Didn't shoot any deer that first year. Didn't shoot any deer for like probably the first 3 years I hunted actually. Cause I was like, I'm only doing it with a bow. Like I came home from Afghanistan, like, I took my girlfriend, now my wife, down, took her down and, we tried to bow hunt some hogs, right? Which like, I don't even know what the hell I was thinking on that. That was dumb, but, yeah, but like, and actually the guy that took us hunting, he's actually worked for me a couple of times since then, which is pretty awesome. So, I was like, all right, all primitive, so I found my healing in the woods. And I had the privilege of being able to hunt with a couple other organizations like Combat Marine Outdoors and Wounded Warriors in Action stuff and send people hunting with those organizations as well, do some fishing trips and all that. And when I retired, I had to kind of approach certain organizations and like, hey, let me start my own thing in North Carolina, because I was doing an internship as a hunting guide. Been like hunting like a freaking madman, like ever since I picked up a bow, like whenever I could. And sending these people on hunts and all that. And for me, like one hunt we do in Pine or in Summerton, South Carolina, at Featherhorn Farm, like just great American people, right? They donate their private land, their hunting clubs, like they just want dudes to shoot deer, hogs, and like have fun. You know what I mean? And like it just reminds you, like, guys who like I said, you can watch the news, right, and get real disillusioned with the country real fast, especially during the scamdemic and whatnot. And then, so these people are like, remind you of why you signed up to do the job. You know what I mean? And they're grateful. And like, you're like, yeah, these are the people that I signed that blank check for. You know what I mean? So, I asked some organizations to like do my thing, and they weren't interested. So I talked to my buddy Tony about it. And we were going down the road, like we had a lawyer, right? We're filling out paperwork. And then our lawyer went down to Haiti after one of the hurricanes because he has his own nonprofit. And so we kind of shelved it, which actually in hindsight was probably good. And a couple of years ago, he was like, hey, let's mentor some guys in Idaho for a hunt, and like, cause we can't be hunting guides because we're not Idaho residents or have guide license, whatever, but like we can go hunt together.
Yeah. Mentor.
Right. Like I'm not guiding him, right? We're hunting together. Yeah. I'm mentoring him on like backcountry stuff. Right. So no guiding, just like buddies hunting type thing, and I was like, absolutely. So we found some dudes, and then he's like, why don't we start this nonprofit? I'm like, dude, good. I was going to literally talk to you about that. And he's like, all right, well, who do we want like our third like founder to be? Right. So we asked our buddy Drew, he's still active duty Coast Guard, like special missions unit guy, to be our like third co-founder. Like he's like, the voice of reason at times, just like pragmatic and chill, like a little bit of yang to me and Tony's yang at times, just
always
awesome. Yeah, right, exactly. Mm-hmm. And we brought on our other two board members, Roy and Josh, like all of them great guys. So we did this hunt right in Idaho. Like we were like, all right, well, we'll put in our paperwork. We'll see when it comes back, right? Well, our paperwork came back in like 2 weeks from the IRS. Like, bam, you guys can. So we're like, all right, trying to fundraise. We got this hunt coming up. Like, I'm pretty sure that me, Tony, and Drew are still like $3,000 a piece in the hole from that trip, right? Because like we put a lot of it, ourselves. And so it was just like, went out there and like did an elk hunt. Right, backcountry elk hunt. That's like probably the second hardest hunt you can do in the lower 48 besides a sheep hunt. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so there was like a lot of learning occurred, like just, we probably hiked like at least 100, 150 miles in the backcountry, right? Like, like we just, weather. We end up getting 2 mule deer, 2 elk. We should have had 2 more elk down, missed one, had a snafu on another one. And, one guy that hunted with us, one day we like hiked from, it was like 4,500 or 5,000 feet of elevation, probably to like 8,000. Like it was one of the harder climbs, even including Afghanistan, probably like one of the hardest climbs I've ever done. And like literally me and my media guy, like James, like we're about to get into like a fist fight on the side of the mountain. Like dude, everybody's stressed out, We get up to the top and we're going to these spots to glass, and this dude's like, Koup, like if it wasn't for this hunt, I would have put a pistol in my mouth and pulled the trigger about 6 months ago. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, this hunt gave me purpose, gave me something to train for, gave me a reason to like live,
keep going,
And I'm like, dang. I'm like, dude, that made a huge impact on me. Because I know what it did for me right now to hear him say that, and like the guys who, hunt with our organization, right? So that's what we do, right? So we call it ecotherapy, right? So hunting and fishing, outdoor adventures, right? Like we coined the term ecotherapy because we're like, what is something, right, that, certain people think of veterans and hunting, or veterans, first responders and hunting, and then think, of what kind of crowd that we can be at times, like a rambunctious sort, you know what I mean? Right. So, and we're like, all right, like, let's use, like, we'll call this ecotherapy, because it is, ecotherapy, right? And guys find healing in the woods and the camaraderie with one another. So since that hunt, like I said, that was our first hunt. We just, a little while ago, like, finished our first full year in operation, and during that time took over 100 veterans and first responders and their kids hunting and fishing in 7 different states. And like, our bank account was never north of like 10 grand. So we've been balling on a budget. A lot of people that like want us to bring guys out to hunt with them. I'm like, hey, like, fundraising's a real thing, right? Like, we're doing this. Like, I try to learn from other nonprofits. Like, hey, what mistakes did you make that I don't need to make, right? And all that. And so getting, like, we do predator hunts. Like, we did the Onslow Predator Challenge the last 2 years. My buddy Timmy, who's a Marine as well, he runs that huge, like, probably North Carolina's biggest predator challenge and best. Might be a little jaded on that, but it's definitely the best. So, so we had last year, we had one team. We had Tyler Vargas on that team. And he shot his first coyote. He got blown up at Abbey Gate. He's got one arm, one leg, like, huge crazy story on that too, because he flipped his wheelchair over and some cow shit, and like ended up shooting the coyote off his like good arm, good leg, like type thing. Yeah, right. And I'm like, oh, how was it? He's like, I'm hooked. So he came back this year, right? And hopefully he'll come back next year. So this year we had 2 teams in that. So a couple things we do different with our nonprofit is that a lot of guys will have guys come hunt with them or fish, and they're like, all right, well, see you later. You know what I mean? For us, like, we want guys to stay involved, right? In some capacity.
Be a part of the community.
Yeah. So like, we've got a couple team leaders that like do our, we'll run the teams for predator challenges. So like next year, like, all the same guys, if they want to do the Onslow Predator Challenge, they'll all be on the same team. And we'll have the second team, right? If we got to fill some guys in, we can. Next year, hopefully we'll have 3 teams for that. But like, predator hunting is fun because it's maximum camaraderie, right? 'Cause you're driving from place to place, right? You're bullshitting the whole time, getting to know each other, right? Strategizing, right? You set up the call, you call for 20 minutes, then it comes in, boom, next place, next place, right? And, if you win, right, and there's a ton of side pots, right? So you can win a bunch of prizes and gifts. Like, our guys at all predator competitions this year got a bunch of the side pots and they won. But it's like good. And everybody loves skulking around at night, doing that. Like, we do iguana hunts down in Florida with my buddy Travis with Tropical Trophies with T-Dubs. We do some iguana hunts with him, and then fishing with Blue Gabe when we're down there. And which that's, again, crazy fun because maximum camaraderie time, shit talking. Because, like, dude, you have to hit an iguana right behind in that little circle. Right, that's the off switch for them suckers.
Really?
Right, and they'll like reanimate too. Like, we had some lined up, right, and also like 10 minutes later they just flip over and they go run, jump in the pond. You're like, what the hell, And so like we'll do like a field to table, right, as well. So like the iguanas, like we skinned them up, right, fried them, cooked them for the guys.
They taste good.
It's like a cross between frog legs and gator tail.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're pretty good. Last time we shot like 117 iguanas in like 5 hours out of 2 yards. And we donated all those to some Mexican families in Florida. And then the lady made some like iguana tortilla, and it was freaking amazing, like delicious. So like we do field the table a lot. Like we cooked up mule deer like right out on the fire in Idaho. Teach the guys, right? Like we love taking guys who never hunted before because we teach them the why, the how, like this is how we scout. This is the mindset, right? Like this is all the stuff that we're doing and why. And then like teach them how to skin it, gut it, quarter it, right? Freaking steak it up if they need to. We don't ever go down to like the sausage making, all that part, right? But like they have all the keys to success if they decide to go hunt, right? And we're working on, a program like I said, we got some team leaders for the Predator Challenge, right? We got some team leads that take guys to other hunts, right? So like, it's not always gonna be like me or Tony or Drew taking guys, right? But I've got, a guy who's like, hey man, like I love hog hunting. I want to take some guys to Georgia, right, to hog hunt here, right? So we're spreading like, the camaraderie, right? Like leadership in there too, right? Like giving guys a sense of purpose, right? So now now a team lead, right, is taking a bunch of guys down to, wherever to hunt, right? Or to Colorado for pronghorn and, stuff like that. So growing in that manner, right? And then, like we're working on like a program that if a guy, so like I have my buddy Nick and this other dude, Cody, like they run our Western hunting out of Colorado. So we got a ranch to hunt in Wyoming. We got a bunch of places to hunt in Colorado, right? But like if somebody wants to be a Western hunting guide, right, we're trying to develop a program to help them do that. So they hunt with us a couple of years, right? See what Nick and like Cody and what those guys do, and then help them get their guide license, right? So keep guys involved in the program as much as they want to be. Some guys are like, cool, thanks for the hunt, right? And then like you hear from them in like a month, and sometimes it'll be like a couple months later, and you're like, how you doing? Everything good? Like,
I feel good.
like we started a Facebook page for like TRO alumni, right? So guys can like, I can post like, hey, I got openings for a hunt here, right? Or like, hey, if you come, cause you did a hunt with us, can you get one of your buddies to go with you, right? Like, so like keep people involved, and keep checking in on buddies, right? Like that's one of the big things.
It's maintaining that community, literally.
Right.
Like, I love the way you guys design that, because again,
I mean, I can take a fireman, Army, Navy, Marine, cop, right? By the end of the weekend, they're all gonna be best friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like they're all doing something like-minded, right? Doesn't matter, right? And everybody's like, don't matter what your views are. Right, it's just back to like the basics, right?
It's
like,
such a good thing to like talk about
camaraderie.
Like, you can talk about hunting, and that becomes your thing. Like you go on into whether it's you got bows and all the different whatever you want to do around there. Look at different guns, different types of hunts, like whatever.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, I joke around all the time, like we're have guns will travel. Like whether air rifles, it's like Rapid Air Works sponsored us, and Air Force air guns. So they donated the first guys that we took iguana hunting. They gave them the air rifles. They're like $1,800 air rifles.
That's huge,
right? So like I gave one to this dude John Finney, right? He's like just retired as sergeant major. Like I'm like, you get to keep this, like the gun and the glass and the moderator. And he's like, right? He like started crying. He's like, well, why would they give that to me? I'm like, thank you.
Yeah,
right. He's like blown away, So we set up a team this year for the Rocky Mountain Air Gun Challenge. So we'll bring me and Travis will bring 6 other guys out to Utah for the Rocky Mountain Air Gun Challenge, like the largest air gun challenge in the world. Stinking, they give out $150,000 cash, right, and prizes. Like if you win PRS, 25 grand. You win bench rest, 25 grand. Right, that's like pro sportsmen's, like still like 5 or 10 grand for each. They do speed, bench rest, and they do a big bore challenge where you shoot like 457, like big bore air guns. And I went and did it last year, and I got freaking humbled out there. Like I got my ass kicked. Like truly, like not like a lot of times in my like shooting career, I've like been truly humbled. Like I truly got humbled out there. And it just blew me away. So this year, right, like they never really had there's veterans that are out there, right, but not a veteran like team go out there. So this year, like we put together a team of guys to go out there, like snipers. One dude's a ranger and a sniper instructor, recon Marines, snipers, like a couple of them compete on the doing PRS. So like, we're just gonna go out there like and see how we do, have fun. But like, an outdoor adventure, right? And some guys are like, yeah, I don't care about like shooting guns, which is weird to me, by the way, but, but like shooting air rifles, right? Quiet. You can do it in most suburban neighborhoods, right? Because it's not considered a rifle. Check your laws though, people. But, so we're going to do that. We got a sniper challenge out in Montana at Thorson Ranch training in August. And like silencer code, that's like they came on board as a sponsor, Leopold, bunch of people. So, like that'll be like our big fundraiser for the year. It'll be that sniper challenge in Montana.
I want to put you in contact with John because I know he's out there, and I mean,
Cool.
I know he'd love to be a part of this. He's a huge hunter, obviously, too. I mean, kind of part of being a game warden. So,
right.
So I feel like you two click up well, and I know he loves stuff like this. So I'm gonna definitely put you guys in contact.
I'll definitely appreciate that. So it's just seeing, like a second dude, one of the guy on our Predator teams, like he literally told me last week was like, hey, like, and I just ran into this guy at a deer processing place back home. And I started talking to him, come to find out he's got pigs on his land, right? We do a lot of hog hunting. So I do that, civilian side with hunting Carolinas as well. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yo, man, like here, we exchanged numbers, took a couple of guys hunting on his family's place. His son helps work for me now. And I got it. Then I had him and his son do a Predator challenge, and he told me, he's like, Koup, like if I hadn't met you, he's like, I probably would have put a gun in my mouth and pulled the trigger within 2 weeks. It's because of just stress of stuff, VA stuff, messing with them. And then like some of his business stuff and just all that. And he's like, that's where I was with my life. And like, you pulled me out of that. I'm like, dang, I'm really glad you didn't, Mike, but like that stuff to me is like,
that means everything.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm frustrated, I can't convince companies to give me money, and I get frustrated and pissed off. Like I remember that stuff, and then that's what it's all about. And so many guys, lose their network, right? Like that's the really big thing. Like earlier I said, don't look at it as a contract, look at it as a job, right? When guys get out, they're so like disillusioned and like upset or pissed off about whatever, right? They don't even know, right? They're just like, fuck the Marine Corps, I'm out of here. Like my lights are going to be at the gate. It's the last time you're going to see me. You know what I mean? And like that really used to be the attitude way early in the war and in my career, because everyone's just like, man, like they're counting down the days like till they get out, right? Or till they're on terminal leave. And it's such a terrible and toxic mentality, but like they go and they leave these networks. Right. Then they realize that like nobody back home is like them because you don't go to war and come home the same. I mean, whether you've been shot at one time or 1,000 times, right? Like you change, right? You've changed just being in the military, whether you went to combat or not. It's like we don't just take combat veterans on hunts. We take all veterans or active duty on hunts because, like when we talked about it too for a bunch, like, hey, should we just do Purple Heart recipients, wounded warriors, right? Combat veterans, soft guys, all that. And we're like, no, we need to do everybody, right? Because like you could have been a supply guy, an admin guy, right? And you've been on a convoy somewhere and all of a sudden the worst day happens, right? Complex ambush, right? You see shit you were never thinking you'd ever see in the military or in the Marine Corps, right? Or you just didn't think it was going to be you, right? Because you just didn't have that training, right? Like everyone had that potential for the blank check to get cashed at some point in time, you know what I mean? Whether that be in training or combat. So like, look, we're going to take everybody. When we do have people that are like, right, that we know are not inevitably, right? Inevitably we'll have a mixture of guys and that works out really great. Cause if I have a special forces pipe hitter, right? And like a recon guy or a MARSOC guy, right? And I have like, a dude who's like he's done 10 years and he's like an admin guy or a whatever, right? Like these guys all talk, like they all talk and, a lot of guys have done more than, they've been in 10 years, like even, a little less than that. You're like, back when I was first in the infantry, it was like, yeah, we're grunts. We're the best. Like, fuck everybody else, man. Fuck you, you're cool, right? Like everybody has like that mentality, right? We're the best, right? But like, actually, as you mature, you're like, actually, so I need those guys over there. So I need to be real, like, all right, it's about networking, right? And then like, these guys start talking, right? And cross talking and, they learn stuff from each other. Right. Or, you take some guys who've seen a ton of combat and some of these young guys who are like, man, I went in to go to war and like, I can't. And they're like pissed off about it. Right. Cause like, that's a thing too. The guys who are in right now that want to go to combat, but there's nothing for them to fight. right? So like, what are we doing here? Like you're training, man, for the next fight.
Yep.
You know, like you're training for the next fight, learn from the old dudes. But you put those guys in camp together, and then they're like, the young dudes are eating up the old guys' stories, right? And, you know, it's just good for like that whole, even if you don't, like, you know, it's still hunting, right? So not all hunts are successful, right? But like it's that camaraderie around the fire or the dinner table.
Again,
you know,
that community,
yeah,
that like conversation, because once you can start, you know, from there, it's, you know, even the differences, whatever it might be, those guys have a common connection, and it lets them keep going, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, man, again, it was an honor to have you on the show. I mean, again, you're an incredible person. Everything that you've kind of, again, displayed in terms of leadership, in terms of, you know, how much you really cared about those around you, and even going into the reason is really profound, man. And I'm so happy that you agreed to come on today. And if you could let people know where they could find you if they're interested as well. I know a lot in the audience probably want to jump in. So
yeah, so you can find us at www.thereasonoutdoors.org. You can find us on Instagram, _reason_outdoors_, like you'll see this little elk logo. You might have to double search it because sometimes, you know, Uncle Zuck likes to place the shadow ban on there. You can find us, I think, on TikTok too under that, or on YouTube under The Reason Outdoors, Facebook, The Reason Outdoors. We run a ton of giveaways. We'll be doing a giveaway soon for a Seekins Precision 7PRC rifle. So those of you who are interested in the 7PRC and Seekins, they make great rifles. We'll be doing a giveaway for those pretty soon. But yeah, you can find us at any of those places. And if anybody wants to hunt, just fill out the form we got online, or send us a DM, carrier pigeon, smoke signal, something. Or if you got a property that, you know, you've got any, you know, doesn't like, you know, whether it's cull deer, right, or nuisance animals you need hunted, or coyotes, anything in between. Like I said, have guns will travel, right? We're down to do whatever. Yeah. So get in contact with us, and we would love to come hunt your property and hang out with good American patriots, you know?
Perfect, man. We'll get that all linked below. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Cool. Thanks, brother.